Hello Warhammer Explorers. Before we dive in, hit subscribe so the next transmission isn't lost to the warp. Every click tells me to keep building this universe with you. What if a space marine arrived in the SCP Foundation? Brother Sergeant Marius of the Ultramarines stands on the bridge of the strike cruiser Valor of Eax, watching a strange warp storm swell in the void. The librarian beside him says this storm does not roar like the others, but whispers, like a human voice trying not to be heard. Auspex runes show a thin knife of energy stabbing deep into a distant, fragile human world that the Imperium does not know. Marius knows his duty is clear. He must follow that knife, find the threat, and cut it out before it can harm mankind. He steps into a blessed drop pod wired to an ancient teleport engine, feels the machine drink a little of his strength as payment, and then the warp tears open and swallows him whole. The night sky over the desert splits like glass. A long, glowing wound opens high above a fenced, anonymous compound that has no name on any map. The guards at the outer gate of Site 19 only see a bright flare at first, like a shooting star that has lost its way. Radios crackle. Someone shouts that an object is coming down fast. The object grows larger as it falls. To a passing trucker on the empty road, it is a burning drop of metal screaming across the sky. To the cameras on Site 19's perimeter, it is a cylinder of armored plates spinning, shedding, trailing fire. To the satellite feeds watched in Foundation command centers around the world, it is a new entry in a long list of terrible things. A bright signature, unknown origin, unknown intent, headed straight for one of their most dangerous facilities. Inside Site 19, alarms begin to wail. Unscheduled impact event, the computer voice says over the speakers. All security personnel to standby positions. Possible breach scenario. In the control room, Director Elise Shu pushes her chair back and stands. She is small, tired, and very calm. Her hair is tied back. She looks at the feeds without blinking as red lights spin overhead. On one monitor, the falling object burns brighter. On another, a list of nearby SCP designations scrolls, each line showing secure. She wants to keep it that way. Where is it going to hit? She asks. Projected impact. Outer Vehicle Bay 3, the tech at her side says. Margin of error 50 meters. It might hit the roof. Bring Nine-tailed Fox to full deployment, Elise says, and tell Dr. Klein to lock down all Ketas in Sector C. If this shakes us, I don't want anything using the noise. Far above, the drop pod hits atmosphere and screams. Inside it, Marius braces his boots in the clamps and bows his head. His armor, blue and gold and scarred from 100 wars, shudders with the heat. Warning runes flash red inside his helmet, then settle back to amber. He can feel the strange warp trail pulling him, like a hook has caught his soul, and is dragging him toward this small, silent world. He thinks of his oath. I am the shield of mankind, he whispers. By the will of the Yurt Emperor, I stand between his people and the night. The pod shakes harder. Metal groans as it cuts through cloud. Flames wash over the hull. The teleport engine at its core whines in a pitch that hurts even his enhanced ears. Marius feels the cost again. A slow drain in his muscles. A soft dimming of the distant holy light of the Astronomicon. Each use of this relic machine steals a little of his link to home. He accepts it. The pod slams into concrete with a force that turns the world white. The shockwave rattles the walls of Site 19. Dust spills from ceilings. In Vehicle Bay 3, parked armored cars jump on their suspensions as the floor bucks. Screams echo as workers dive for cover. The bay doors crumple inward. and a shape the size of a small house punches up through the floor, leaving a crater of cracked stone and rebar. For a second, there is only silence and the hiss of cooling metal. Then explosive bolts fire along the pod seams. The armored petals blow outward, smashing into walls and vehicles. Steam and smoke gush out, lit from within by a hard, white light. A figure rises from the center of the wreck, towering over the ruined bay. 8 feet of ceramite and muscle. A giant in blue armor marked with a white omega. He holds a short, fat gun with a round barrel and a chain-toothed sword at his hip. Standard SCP Foundation security teams carry rifles and wear helmets. They are trained to face monsters. They are not ready for a living tank. The first squad into the bay stops for half a heartbeat, just at the edge of the smoke. "Hands up," one of them shouts on reflex. "Put the weapon down. On the ground now." Marius turns toward the voice. His helmet lenses glow red in the dim light. His armor is scarred and smoking. Dust runs off the plates in small rivers. He sees small humans in thin armor, their weapons light and weak, their hearts beating fast, their hands shaking but steady enough. He respects that. "Identify yourselves," he says, his voice deep and harsh through the Vox grill. "Name your world and your service to mankind." The security team leader, Sergeant Mason Reed, has seen a child's bedroom eaten by a living shadow and has watched a man's head fold inside out when he read the wrong sentence. It is not easy to stun him. This stuns him. Site 19 security, Mason manages. SCP Foundation, Earth. We protect humanity. Marius hears the last 3 words and feels a small, hard knot of relief. "Then we are brothers in purpose," he says. He lowers his bolter, but does not set it down. The angles of his armor stay tight, ready. Before Mason can answer, the bay doors behind him twist. A deep grinding noise rolls through the room. The metal doors bow outward, then inward. Concrete cracks. Something heavy slams into the other side again and again. Site 19 was built to hold things the world must never see. It was not built for the pressure of a warp-touched impact and a sudden cascade of failed redundancies. Sensors went wild when the pod hit. Far below, in concrete cells lined with special materials that absorb magic and radiation and stranger things, a single green bar on a screen turned yellow, then red. Then several more across the board began to match it. Containment breach in progress. The thing behind the bay doors lets out a sound like wet stone grinding on wet stone and pushes harder. Mason's radio shrieks to life. "Reed, this is Control," a voice shouts over gunfire and alarms. "We've got a spontaneous breach on SCP-6110 in Maintenance Corridor D. It's moving fast. You've got seconds." Mason swears. SCP-6110 is a flesh plague that turns living things into red, crawling meat. It is the kind of infection you contain with fire and fear. It should not be anywhere near Vehicle Bay 3. But the system screens in Control now show its mark crawling along the map, warping through locked zones in ways that break all rules. The bay doors burst inward. Red, wet growth pours into the room like a tide. It coats the walls and floor, bubbling and twitching. Vague limbs reach out of it and drag it forward. Faces half-formed in its surface open mouths and scream. A forklift stuck in the growth melts as if it is made of wax, its metal joining the living mass. The smell hits the security team like a slap. "Open fire," Mason yells. Bullets rip into the red meat. It jerks and tears, but it does not stop. It simply grows around the new wounds, using them as anchors. It surges toward the squad with sudden speed. Marius watches it for half a second and knows 2 things. 1. This is no simple warp spawn. It does not feel like a demon or a cursed beast. It is something new, tied to this world's own deep wrongs. 2. It will kill everyone in this room if he does not act now. He steps forward. His boots crush cracking concrete. His armor servos whine as he raises his bolter. He tastes copper in his mouth as he taps a rune on the gun's side, blessing its machine spirit. Then he fires. The bolter roars. Each shot is a small rocket with a mass-reactive warhead. The first round smashes into the leading wave of red flesh, buries itself deep, and then explodes. Chunks of burning meat spray the walls. The second and third shots chew a tunnel through the wave, blowing out the back. Fire and smoke roll. The plague shrieks. Marius advances into the blast. He fires in controlled bursts, making each shell count. The bolt rounds dig, burrow, and detonate, shredding and burning. He aims for thicker knots of growth, for the parts that twitch and pull the rest along. He can feel the heat wash over his armor. His lenses dim and lighten to protect his eyes. "Back," Mason shouts to his squad. "Give him space." They obey. The security team falls back, still shooting at side flows that try to flank around the giant. Marius walks into the center of the attack. When his bolter clicks empty, he does not pause. He swings the chainsword from his hip, yanks the starter cord, and feels the teeth whir to life. The first lunging tendril of red meat wraps around his leg. It tightens like a living rope, trying to pull him off his feet. He answers by bringing the chainsaw down in a heavy chop. The blade bites into the growth and tears through, spraying gore. A face in the mass screams as it is cut free and falls, still twitching, to the floor. Marius keeps going. Each swing cuts open new channels. Each step drives the plague back. But this thing is not stupid. It learns. It begins to flow around him instead of at him, trying to sweep past and reach the softer targets behind. Marius sees it and makes a hard choice. He throws himself sideways, straight into the thickest part of the mass. For a moment, he is buried in red. The growth climbs his armor, feeling for seams. It presses against his lenses. Warning runes flare in his helm as filters strain. He feels the slow push of it against the weak points of his joints. If he were a normal man, he would be gone. He is not a normal man. He is Adeptus Astartes. With a wordless roar, he drives his chainsword straight down into the floor. The teeth bite stone and steel and meat all together. The motor screams. For a second it stalls, then cuts through. The shock shakes the whole mass. He twists and carves a full circle around himself, sawing the plague away from the floor. Then he heaves his huge body up and out, dragging the sword with him. The carved section of red growth slides free and slumps. Without a firm hold on walls or floor, the front of the plague loses its grip. Fire and bolter rounds and shock finally break its unity. It sloshes back toward the corridor, half melted, and collapses in on itself. The screaming fades to low moans, then to silence. Marius stands in the center of the bay, coated in blood and ash. He breathes hard. His armor is scored and dented. Several joints pulse with warning lights. The air filters in his helm flash overload for a moment, then clear. His muscles ache in a way they did not before he stepped into the teleport pod. He won. He is still standing. But there was a cost. Codex note. A bolter is a sacred weapon of the Adeptus Astartes that fires rocket-propelled shells, each designed to explode inside a target. Mason lowers his rifle, panting. He looks at the ruined bay, at the burned and shredded plague, at the blue giant who just saved his team. He knows, at a deep level, that he should flag this thing as an immediate containment risk. He also knows that if that giant had not fallen from the sky, He and everyone here would be slurry on the floor. "Control, this is Reed," he says into his radio. "Impact object is humanoid, large, hostile to SCP-610, friendly to us so far. Recommending temporary alliance, immediate." Elise Shu's voice comes back, flat and tight. "Negative on the word alliance, Hunt Sergeant. Use contact. Is 610 neutralized?" Mason looks at the steaming remains. "It's not moving," he says. "If it's not neutralized, it's, thinking about its life choices." "Cute," Elise says. "Bring the contact to holding bay 7. Squad Gamma will escort. Full lockdown on the path. I want eyes on him the entire way." And Mason, "Yes, Director. If he takes one step out of line, you do not hesitate. We have enough monsters already." Mason looks at Marius. The Space Marine is dragging the chainsword through a piece of dead plague, making sure it is dead. He moves with slow care. He does not look like a mindless beast. He looks like a soldier who has done this too many times. "I understand," Mason says softly. He steps forward and raises a hand, palm out. "Blue guy," he calls. "We appreciate the help. Our boss wants to talk to you. We'd like you to come with us. Nobody else has to die today." Marius looks down at the small man. He hears the fear under the brave words. He also hears the duty. It is the same sound he hears in the voices of mortal guardsmen before a tyrannid wave hits. He respects that. "I will go," he says. "I must learn what has happened to this place. This plague did not act alone. I felt something pull it." He follows the security team through the broken doors. The path to holding bay 7 runs deep into Site 19. Concrete walls, steel doors with thick locks, cameras in every corner, warning signs with simple orders: "Do not open, do not look, do not listen." Marius reads them all and files them away. The air smells of bleach, metal, fear, and something else he cannot name. Behind some doors, he can feel things. One cell they pass hums with a low, constant pressure on his mind. It feels like someone touching his thoughts with a cold finger. Another cell smells of old books and dust, but the dust tastes wrong, like ash left after a mind has burned. He keeps one hand near his chainsword without thinking. "Do you hold demons here?" he asks. Mason glances back at him. "We hold..." He searches for a word that will not break some memo rule. "Things, ideas, gods, whatever tries to end us, we put it in a box." Marius nods slowly. "You are like the Inquisition," he says. "You fight in the dark so others may live in the light. Yet you are only men. That is, brave." Mason snorts. "Yeah, well, we do our best." They reach holding bay 7. It is a wide, empty room with reinforced glass on one side and a heavy door on the other. The glass looks into a control booth. Lights glare down from the ceiling. Cameras hang like black eyes. This is a room for talking to dangerous things without letting them out. "Step inside, please," Mason says. He hates this part. He hates treating someone who just saved his team like a monster. But there are rules. Rules are why the world still exists. Marius walks into the bay. The door closes behind him with a deep thunk. Locks slam into place. Red lines blink to green on a panel in the booth. Elise Shu steps up to the glass. She studies the giant in blue. He stands in the center of the room, bolt gun lowered, sword at his hip, head slightly bowed. He looks like a statue of war. "Audio on," Elise says. Speakers click. "This is Director Elise Shu, Site 19, she says. "You are currently inside a secure interview bay. You will not be harmed as long as you comply. Do you understand?" "I understand," Marius says. His voice fills the room and the booth. It is too large for the speakers. "Mason," standing at the back beside other guards, feels it vibrate in his chest. "I am Brother Sergeant Marius of the Ultramarines," the giant says. "A warrior of the Adeptus Astartes, servant of the Emperor of mankind. Name yourself, guardian of this fortress." Elise does not react to the strange words. "I've already given my name," she says. "Director Shu is fine. We are the SCP Foundation. We contain and study anomalous entities and phenomena that threaten normalcy and human life. Based on what we've seen, you are anomalous." Marius tilts his head. "You mean not normal?" he says. "Yes, that is true. I was made to be more than normal, so that others could live." Elise folds her arms. "Why did you fall out of my sky, Sergeant Marius?" Marius looks up, as if he can see through the ceiling to the wounded knight. "There is a storm in the warp," he says. "A storm that whispers. It sent a knife of power to your world. I followed it. I felt it tug at the plague that I fought in your hall. It is pulling at the things you hold here, trying to make them one." In control, a tech turns pale. "Director," he says, "we're seeing correlated fluctuations across multiple containment systems. It's not just 610. 096 is agitated. 173 sensors are glitching. Even 682 is pacing. There's a pattern in the noise, like a shared signal." "Put it on the screen," Elise says. One monitor fills with lines of data: temperature, Hume levels, unknown energies. Each jagged wave from each cell looks random alone. Overlaid, they sink into a rough pulse, a heartbeat that runs through Site 19 and, if other reports are true, through other sites around the world. Mason feels the hair rise on his arms. "What does it want?" Elise asks, eyes on the data. Marius thinks. He remembers how the warp storm looked. Not wild, but focused. Not roaring, but whispering. A hunter's gaze. "It wants to be noticed," he says. "It wants to be believed in. The things you hold here are stories made flesh and rule breakers given form. Such things are food to the warp. My coming has shown it a new meal." Elise's jaw tightens. "In other words, by trying to stop it, you made it worse." Marius does not flinch. "Yes," he says, "that is the risk of every strike we make. Your plague was already moving. The storm only gave it a path. Now I am here. I can help you cut that path off. Or you can lock me away and die slowly. Choose." The room goes very still. In the booth, one of the junior researchers swallows. "Director, at least he's honest," he murmurs. Elise ignores him. "Assume for a moment that I believe you," she says to Marius. "Assume you are here to help. What is this warp, and why haven't we seen it before today?" Marius considers how to explain a sea of souls to small, fragile minds. "It is a storm of minds," he says slowly. "Every thought, every fear, every act of faith, every dream of every man and woman and child, all together. It swirls outside your real space. Some can touch it. Some are born twisted by it. It births demons, spirits that crave and lie. It also carries the will of my emperor across the stars." He taps his armored chest. "My kind were made to walk the line between that storm and real space. We are shields. But the relic that brought me here is old and greedy. Each use feeds the warp as much as it helps us. That may be how this storm found you." Elise takes that in. "Control," she says quietly into her mic. "I want a global sweep. Check all sites for anomalies that match this pattern. Cross-correlate with any unexplained psychic or religious phenomena in the last 24 hours. If this warp is touching us, I want to know where." "Yes, Director," someone says. She turns back to Marius. "You said it is pulling at our SCPs," she says. "What happens if it succeeds?" Marius's eyes, hidden behind red lenses, are very tired. Then your walls fall, he says. The things you keep here stop being separate. They become one wound in the skin of real space, a ripe place for demons to come through. This is your fortress, is it not? Then imagine the warp using it as a gate. Imagine your monsters set free, wearing demons like armor. Mason does imagine it. He sees SCP-682, the hard-to-destroy lizard, with a warp entity living in its rage. He sees the shy guy wrapped in screaming faces from other realities. He sees all the boxes empty. His stomach twists. So what do we do? He asks, stepping closer to the glass. Elise glances at him, but does not rebuke him. Marius answers without delay. You must find the point where the knife enters your world, he says. The focus. There will be a place where this storm touches your rules. A heart. Strike it, and the storm will falter. Leave it, and each beat will pull more of your SCPs into its rhythm. Director, Control chimes in again, voice higher now. We have the pattern mapped. It's strongest here at Site 19, but we're picking spikes at Site 17, 77, and 06 as well. There's also a... Director, there's a new designation flashing on the global board. Keter. Auto-created. It's in our system, but nobody registered it. SCP 5000. Codename Black Star. Location Site 19, unassigned object. It's writing itself in. Everyone looks at the main screen. The new line glows. SCP 5000. Keter. Unknown. Risk. XK class end of the world scenario. Elise feels a cold, clean anger rise in her chest. Of course, she says. Of course it gives itself a file. It wants to be real. Marius nods once. It is learning your language, he says. Names, numbers, rules. It will use them to grow. Elise looks through the glass at him. Her mind runs through options. She can try to treat this giant as just another anomaly. Sedate, disarm, lock away. But the storm is already touching her walls. Time is short. She needs a weapon that understands this new enemy. You said you are a shield, she says. Can you also be a spear? If the Emperor wills it, Marius says. She takes a breath. Fine, she says. Here is the plan. We do not have the luxury of slow tests. You are now a provisional asset under Foundation authority. You will follow our orders as long as they do not violate your Emperor's commands. In return, we will help you locate this black star within our systems and strike it. Sergeant Reed, you will act as liaison. Mason blinks. Ma'am, are you sure? No, Elise says. But I am less sure we can contain a living, self-writing Keter-class info storm without help from someone who has seen this kind of thing before. And if he turns on us, we have him inside our walls, under our guns. Marius bows his head, just a bit. I will accept your command, he says, so long as it serves mankind. Elise nods. Then we go to work, she says. Control, raise threat level to black. Inform the O5 Council we have a new Keter-class event centered on Site 19. All non-essential personnel to shelters. All mobile task forces to ready status. Operation Black Star is now in effect. Around the world, in buried rooms and hidden bunkers, men and women look up from their screens as alerts flash. Some curse, some pray. Some move with quiet speed to grab gear and weapons and files. The Foundation has faced many ends of the world. It will now face another. In holding Bay 7, the locks click open. Sergeant Marius, Elise says, welcome to the SCP Foundation. Let's see if together we can keep this world from tearing itself apart. Up to now, a giant in blue armor has fallen from the sky, burned a plague of living flesh out of Site 19's walls, and told the SCP Foundation that a warp storm called Black Star is pulling at their cages. Director Elise Shue has made him a provisional asset. The O5 Council has been warned. The world holds its breath. Operation Black Star moves fast. Sirens still cry in some distant hallways, but most alarms now flash in silent, angry red. The overhead lights in Site 19 shift to a dull, steady glow. Armed guards and mobile task force teams move with hard purpose through the concrete veins of the complex. In one of the main briefing rooms, a holographic map of Site 19 hangs above a table. It is a simple image: stacked blocks for wings and sectors, colored lines for corridors, blinking points for critical systems. Over it, a faint pulsing pattern spreads and contracts like a slow heartbeat. The pulse is the data overlay for SCP 5000, the Black Star effect. It's not just noise, Dr. Lena Klein says. She is in her 40s, with tired eyes and a lab coat that smells of coffee and ozone. She points at the pulsing overlay with a laser pen. See these peaks? They line up with our most narratively dense assets. Mason frowns. Narratively dense? Stories, Klein says. Items, entities, and locations that have strong myth weight. Things that pull belief around them. That stupid, indestructible reptile, for example. Or anything that rewrites reality when you look at it. The storm is sinking them. Marius stands at the far end of the table. He watches the map, arms folded across his chest. The room feels small around him. The lights glint off the scars in his armor. The other people at the table feel like children next to him, but he listens to them as if they are fellow officers. Where is the strongest point? He asks. Klein taps a spot on the map. Here. Old Data Archive C Delta, she says. It's supposed to be cold storage. No active anomalies. Just paper, drives, backup terminals. But for the last 40 minutes, Hume levels in that wing have been dropping. Hume levels, Marius asks. Think of it as reality pressure, Elise says. She stands beside Klein, gaze steady. Lower Humes mean reality is getting soft. Easier to bend. We use Scranton reality anchors to push it back into shape. Marius nods slowly. In my world, we call that the warp bleeding through, he says. A weak spot in the skin of the real. If this place is your fortress, then C Delta is where the enemy is testing your wall. Klein brings up another set of graphs. Temperature fluctuations, power spikes, network traffic, where there should be none. Something is waking up down there, she says. And it's using our own records as fuel. Old reports, broken files, even redacted text. Anything that was ever believed or feared. It's chewing through them and writing new links. If it breaks out of the archive, it will have a path into our main data spine. Meaning, Mason asks. Meaning it can rewrite what we think is real, Elise says. A self-editing storm inside the system that defines and tracks our anomalies. It doesn't have to open every cell door. It can just change the labels. Marius studies the pulsing spot. Then we must cut it out, he says. Like I cut out your plague. Block its path. Sever its tie to your records. If it feeds on belief, we starve it. That's the plan, Elise says. Epsilon 11 will escort you. We will deploy portable Scranton anchors along the approach route to hold the Hume levels up. You will enter the archive, find whatever Black Star has made there, and destroy it. Mason raises a hand slightly. Director, with respect, he says, you're planning to send our only giant demon killer into a room full of paper. No offense, blue guy, but what if it's not something you can shoot? Marius's mouth twists at the edge, almost a smile. I have fought librarians of the Thousand Suns, he says. Sorcerers who turned whole histories into weapons. flames of words, curses written on the skin of reality. My bolter is not the only tool I have. He taps the skull-shaped device fixed to his chest. I carry a machine spirit that records my every battle, he says. It holds litanies, prayers, and laws of war. I will match your storm of stories with a catechism of truth. Klein's eyes narrow with interest. Is that a cogitator? She asks. A blessed memory core, Marius says. Forged on Macragga, fed on the blood oaths of my chapter. It will not lie. Elise cuts in before Klein can ask to take it apart. Good, she says. Because if Black Star is learning us, it means it's also trying to learn you. I want you to remember that. Do not trust any voice that sounds like it crawled out of your own head. Marius holds her gaze through his lenses. I have one master, he says. The Emperor of mankind. Even his voice I test against his will. Let's hope that's enough, Elise says. Gear up. You drop in 10 minutes. The route to Archive C Delta is a maze. Marius walks at the front of the column, his heavy steps shaking dust from the ceiling. Behind him moves MTF Epsilon 11, Nine-Tailed Fox. They are the Foundation's elite site response team. Black armor, matte helmets, disciplined movements, rifles ready, but not twitchy. Mason marches just behind Marius, acting as liaison. On the walls, small boxes with faintly glowing panels blink as they pass. Scranton anchors, Mason explains. Portable ones. They push back against whatever this is. Think of them as reality nails. Marius feels them. Each time they pass one, there is a brief sense of weight, as if gravity tugs a little harder. The faint background pressure of the warp, always there like a distant storm, dips. The air feels thick and dry for a second, then normal again. They bite the warp, he says. Interesting. Does it hurt you? Mason asks, a note of worry in his voice. A little, Marius admits, like walking through molasses, but it keeps the storm from blowing the roof off your minds. A fair trade. They move deeper. The lights flicker now and then. A low hum runs through the floor. As they turn one corner, they pass a locked blast door with multiple warning signs. A small window set into the door shows only darkness. Do not look in there, Mason says quickly. Marius does not. He keeps his eyes forward. He can feel the Black Star effect as a slow, rising pressure on his soul, like someone whispering at the edge of his hearing. It is not words yet, just the sense of attention. We are being watched, he says. We're always being watched, one of the Fox operatives mutters. Not like that, Marius says. They reach Archive C Delta. The heavy doors are already open. That is wrong. Elise's orders were clear. Seal the archive and wait for the team. The fact that the doors now stand wide tells them the storm is moving faster than their response. Thin threads of black smoke curl out of the gap. Read, report, Elise's voice says in the Mason's ear. Team Theda at C Delta doors, Mason says. Doors are open. Visual on smoke. No human movement. Copy, Elise says. Thermals show mixed readings inside. Some hot spots, some cold spots. Proceed with caution. Anchors in that wing are at 70% output. Any lower and we risk reality twist. Understood, Mason says. He nods to Marius. The Space Marine steps forward and enters the archive. Rows of shelves stretch out into dimness. Boxes, binders, old computers on carts wrapped in plastic. The air smells of paper and dust and something like burned plastic. The lights flicker in long, slow waves, as if the room is blinking. Spread out, Mason orders. 2 by 2, keep eyes on your partner. Call anything weird. The team fans out between the shelves. Marius moves down the main aisle, bolter ready. His autosenses adjust to the poor light, shading everything in crisp outlines. He scans for motion, for heat, for the oily shimmer of warp presence. He finds it. In the center of the room, where several aisles meet, a shape hangs in the air. At first, it looks like a knot of black smoke. Then the smoke resolves into letters, words, phrases, snippets of typed reports and redacted lines and rubber-stamped warnings. They twist around each other like vines, forming a sphere of text that spins slowly. Some of the words are in languages Marius does not know. Some use symbols that hurt his eyes. Some he recognizes from Klein's briefing, SCP designations, hazard classes, containment procedures. All of them glow with a faint, cold light. The air around the sphere is wrong. The walls near it bend just a little, like straight lines seen through water. The floor hums with a frequency that buzzes in Marius's teeth. A fallen box lies nearby, its papers lifting piece by piece into the air and joining the spinning mass. "Control, this is Reed," Mason says quietly. "We have a thing, words in a ball. It's eating the room." Klein's voice comes over the channel. "That's it," she says. "That's a black star node. It's using our reports to model itself. Every line is a piece of our belief about how the world works." "Can we shoot it?" one of the Fox operatives asks. "Carefully," Klein says. "If you punch random holes, you might create new links we don't understand. Think surgical." Marius steps closer. As he does, some of the words peel off the sphere and drift toward him. They twist into Low Gothic, the common tongue of the Imperium. Right in front of his eyes, plus plans Astartes, anomaly, plus object class, kita fa plus rewrite, weapon plals. The letters press against his armor, then sink in. For a moment, heat flares under his skin. Warnings flash in his helmet as his armor's machine spirit detects unauthorized contact. Marius grits his teeth and pushes back with his will, reciting the catechism of protection in his mind. "By the Emperor's light, I am guarded. By steel and faith, I stand." The words inside his armor burn, then flake away, leaving small scorch marks on the ceramite. The sphere pulses once, as if surprised. "It is testing you," Klein says. "It just wrote a preliminary file on you and tried to install it. If that had taken, the system would start treating you as an SCP to be contained or used." "Then we will deny it that form," Marius says. He reaches up and taps the skull device on his chest. The eye sockets of the skull glow. Inside his armor, ancient circuits wake. Marius feels data streams unlock in his mind. The machine spirit whispers battle prayers and tactical litanies. He speaks them aloud. "In the name of the Codex Astartes," he says, "I define myself. I am Brother Sergeant Marius, 7th Company, Ultramarines. I am no object. I am a servant of the Emperor. I obey his law alone." As he speaks, golden script flows out from the skull. It is not real light, but it looks like it. Lines of text in High Gothic and Technolingua spiral from his chest and wrap around him, then reach out toward the Black Star node. Words meet words. The room hums louder. The Fox operatives back up, rifles raised, eyes wide behind their visors. "What is he doing?" someone whispers. "He's fighting it with his own narrative," Klein says, half in awe. "He's overwriting its attempt to overwrite him. We're watching a conceptual arm wrestle." Marius steps forward again. Each step is slow and heavy. The space between him and the node feels thick, full of tiny blades. The node spins faster, pulling more words from the shelves. Pages tear themselves free and fly toward it. Some bounce off the golden script around Marius. Others stick and add new lines to the spinning mass. It tries again. Plus, Emperor, plus God, plus distant, abandoned, rewrite, despair. Those words push at his mind. They are not facts. They are suggestions, possibilities, but they carry weight, drawn from thousands of hidden fears and half-formed thoughts in the minds of humans across this world. For an instant, Marius sees a vision. He stands on a dead world under a black sun. The Astronomicon is gone. The Emperor's throne is empty. His armor is cracked, his bolter silent, and all his brothers are bone dust. The warp laughs. His knees almost buckle. He snarls and forces the image away. "My faith is not your plaything," he growls. "The Emperor is not a story to be edited. He is the master of mankind." He pushes his own words out like a shield. Plus swap, duty plus swap, plan, discipline, blub 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 blub, sacrifice, blub blub blub, rewrite, hope through order, blub blub. The golden script slams into the spinning sphere. For a heartbeat, both sets of words flash. Then the black star node flickers, its edges blur. Some of its phrase vines break and fall as ash. The hum in the room stutters. The smell of burned plastic gets stronger. The node tries to pull more text from the shelves, but Marius's aura pushes back, pinning it. "Now," Elise says over the channel. "Hit it. Controlled bursts. Aim to disrupt, not shatter." "Copy," Mason says. "Fox, on me. Short bursts. Center mass." The MTF operatives open fire. Their bullets stitch across the surface of the node. Each impact tears away a cluster of words. Fragments spin off and dissolve in midair. The node shrieks in a sound that is not sound, but a sharp spike of data and pressure that makes everyone's teeth hurt. Marius adds his bolter to the chorus. He fires single shots, each round punching through the sphere and exploding inside. There is no flesh to tear, but each blast rips apart complex webs of text. Chains of if-then statements crack. Whole containment procedures burn away. The node collapses inward. For a second, it is a tight ball of raw static and meaning. Then it snaps, releasing a wave of force. The Scranton anchors in the walls flare white. Reality slams back into place like a door. The wave hits Marius like a hammer, driving him back a step. The Fox operatives stagger. Papers and dust fall from the air. Then it is done. The sphere is gone. In its place, a single sheet of paper floats down, slowly turning in the air. It lands at Marius's feet. He reaches down and picks it up between two armored fingers. On it, in neat black letters, is a simple message. "Hello, Sergeant Marius. Shall we tell a better story?" The letters erase themselves even as he reads. The paper goes blank, then crumbles to powder. "Control, node neutralized," Mason says, breathing hard. "No casualties, some nausea." "Copy," Elise says. There is a thread of relief in her voice. "Hume levels in C Delta returning to baseline. Good work. Get back here. Black Star is not done." The War Council meets in a larger room this time. The holographic Site 19 map hangs in the air again. But now there are more faces around the table. Elise, Klein, Mason, Marius, standing at the back like a grim statue. A pale man in a suit with a silver pin, the token of the Ethics Committee. And on a dark screen at the end of the room, a single symbol, a circle with a line through it, the O5 Council's proxy. "Up to now," Elise says, "Black Star has used our own files to claw at reality. It made a node in Archive C Delta, tried to rewrite Sergeant Marius as an object, and failed. We cut out that node with minimal loss." She looks around the table. "The question now is not whether we can hit back," she says. "It's what we're willing to burn to win." The Ethics Committee. Man clears his throat. His name is Dr. Chandra Singh. His hands are folded in front of him. His eyes are sharp. I would prefer we not start by burning anything, he says. We still have staff down here, families topside, and a planet that doesn't know it's in danger. Our mandate is to protect humanity, not to turn it into a scorched lab. Elise nods once. I agree, she says, but we also have a mandate to ensure humanity exists tomorrow. Black Star nearly turned our records into a weapon against us. If it had succeeded, containment would already be broken in ways we cannot see. The O5 symbol pulses once on the screen. A distorted voice comes through. Site 19 is authorized to use extreme measures, O53 says. We cannot allow this event to reach surface awareness. Mass civilian casualties are regrettable but acceptable if they prevent a wider collapse. Chandra's jaw tightens. Of course, he says dryly. Why lose 1 million when you can lose 1 billion? That is always the calculus. Marius speaks for the first time. In war, numbers are not the only cost, he says. You can win every battle and still lose your soul. I have seen worlds saved by fire, only for the ashes to breed worse monsters. If you burn without aim, you feed the warp. Klein looks up from her tablet. You're saying Black Star will eat our fear? She asks. I'm saying it will drink your despair, Marius says. Every life you end without need, every mercy you deny, adds weight to its storm. It will turn your necessary evils into chains you cannot see. 053's voice stays flat. You speak of souls, the voice says. We speak of survival. The Foundation has made hard choices for a long time. We erase memories. We disappear threats. We contain gods in boxes and break them in tests. It is not pretty. It is necessary. Chandra looks at the symbol. Necessary does not mean good, he says softly. And if we let necessary excuse everything, we become the monsters we lock up. Elise holds up a hand. Let's ground this, she says. Here's the practical question. To stop Black Star, we may have to destroy some of our most dangerous SCPs rather than risk them being co-opted. Do we do that? Klein grimaces. From a pure risk standpoint, she says, yes. If 682 gets a warp demon inside it, we can kiss the biosphere goodbye. If 096's trigger condition spreads through a reality storm, everybody with a face is dead. Better to terminate them now, if we can, than let Black Star merge with them. Mason shifts in his seat. He thinks of the way 682 looks at people through the glass. He has always hated that thing. The idea of finally killing it should please him. It does not. One problem, he says. We've been trying to terminate 682 for decades. It always comes back. We call it hard to destroy for a reason. Same for some of the others. We don't even know if we can kill them. All we know is we've kept them contained. Mostly. So we choose between the devil we know and a demon we don't, Chandra says. He looks at Marius. Sergeant, you fought storms like this, he says. What is your rule? When do you kill? When do you hold? Marius's answer is simple. I kill when letting the foe live will cost more lives later, he says. But I do not let fear make that call. I weigh. I count. I remember that each soul is a seed. Crush too many seeds, and you starve the future. Elise listens, eyes narrowed. Mercy versus survival, she says. We are right back at the same old argument. The difference now is that Black Star is listening. Every kill, every spared life, changes its diet. 053's voice cuts in. Director Shu, the voice says, you will prioritize the integrity of the Veil and the survival of the species. Ethics may advise, Sergeant Marius may counsel, but your orders come from us. Use the Astartes as a weapon, not as a conscience. The symbol on the screen goes dark. The call ends. Silence hangs for a moment. Chandra breathes out slowly. That went well, he says. Elise rubs her forehead. We do not have time for a philosophical breakdown, she says. Here is the compromise. We treat each potential termination as a surgical strike, not a purge. If we find concrete evidence that Black Star is about to co-opt a particular SCP, or is already doing so, we authorize lethal force. Otherwise, we hold containment and look for smarter options. She looks at Marius. Can you accept that? She asks. Marius thinks of burning worlds. He has watched exterminatus orders carried out. He has seen continents turn to glass to stop a Tyranid hive fleet. He has heard civilians scream on Vox channels as orbital fire washed over them. He knows what necessary looks like. I will accept a measured hand, he says. I will not serve a blind one. Chandra nods once, grateful. Then we have a line, he says. Not a perfect one, but a line. Mason leans forward. What about freedom, he asks. We talk about survival and mercy. What about the fact that we run a global prison for gods? Black Star is using our cages. Maybe it's also a warning. Maybe we shouldn't keep so many things in boxes. Klein gives him a sharp look. You want to open the cages now, she says. That's your pitch? No, Mason says quickly. I'm just saying, if you stack enough dynamite in one spot, you shouldn't be shocked when someone lights a match. Marius speaks quietly. Sometimes a fortress draws the artillery, he says. But without the fortress, the bombs fall on homes instead. Your cages are ugly, but the alternative may be worse. Chandra sighs. Freedom versus doctrine, he says. We keep coming back to it. Do we trust people with the truth, or protect them with lies? The ethics committee exists because we know that secrecy is both shield and poison. Elise looks around the table. We are not going to solve that today, she says. For now, our doctrine stands. The veil holds. The world stays ignorant. Black Star does not get a stage. We fight it in the dark. We fight it smart. We fight it with the tools we have. Scranton anchors, reality metrics, amnestics, and one very large man in blue armor. She offers a thin, sharp smile. Any objections? No one speaks. Good, she says. Then here is the next step. The node in C Delta was not the heart. It was a feeler. Black Star is still pushing. We've seen smaller pulses in our digital backbone, in mimetic filters, in dream survey feeds. It is trying different ways in. We will map its attempts and predict its next major strike. Klein taps her tablet. I'm already on it, she says. If it follows the same pattern, the next strong pulse will hit a place where belief and structure meet. Not just raw fear, but rules about fear. Somewhere with a lot of mimetic and info hazard processing. Mason's stomach sinks. The mimetics lab, he says, or the anti-mimetics division. Chandra's face tightens. If Black Star gets into the anti-mimetic systems, he says, we may not remember it is there at all. Marius turns his head. Explain, he says. Klein does, in simple terms. Mimetic hazards are ideas that hurt you when you understand them, she says. Anti-mimetics are tools that keep you from understanding certain things so you stay safe. We have teams and systems that specialize in not seeing what they work on. If Black Star infects those systems, it can hide inside the gaps in our minds. Marius absorbs that. You have made weapons out of forgetting, he says. The warp loves that. It breeds in shadows and in lies we tell ourselves. If the storm gets into this anti-mimetics, it will use your blind spots to grow. Elise looks at him. Can it hurt you that way? She asks. He hesitates. I am not a psyker, he says, but I am still a creature of thought as well as flesh. My faith is a pattern. My oaths are words. A strong enough lie, aimed at the right place, could twist them, especially if it speaks in my master's voice. The room goes quiet again. Mason remembers the message on the paper. Shall we tell a better story? Director, he says, I really don't want to see what Black Star thinks a better story for him looks like. The alarm comes sooner than expected. Half an hour after the council ends, the lights flicker across Site 19. Not in the slow wave of a failing grid, but in a sharp, deliberate pattern. 2 short flashes, 1 long, 2 short. It repeats 3 times. Mason looks up from the weapons rack he is checking. That's not on the usual list, he says. It isn't, Elise's voice says over the site-wide speakers. Her tone is clipped. All personnel, this is Director Shu. We are experiencing a mimetic intrusion in Sector M. Repeat, mimetic intrusion in Sector M. Reality anchors holding, but anti-mimetic filters are failing. Black Star is inside the firewall. Marius is already moving. He strides down the hall toward the nearest lift. Mason jogs to keep up. Sector M, Marius asks. Mimetics, Mason says. Thought weapons, info hazards, propaganda, that kind of thing. You'll love it. The lift doors open and they ride down. As they descend, Marius feels a shift. It is not physical. His armor does not register it. The floor does not tilt. But some part of his mind, trained in the librarium of Macragge, feels a change in pressure, like stepping from normal air into a room full of incense. The doors open on Sector M. The corridor beyond is bright and clean. White walls, blue stripes, doors with small windows and keypads, posters on the walls with simple warnings. Think safe. Verify before you believe. Report strange thoughts. The air smells faintly of antiseptic. Then Marius notices the black marks. Words. Short, neat sentences written on the walls in thick black marker. On posters. On doors. On the floor. The Emperor is disappointed in you. You have failed your duty. You are alone. He stops. The words seem to swell on the wall, like they are leaning toward him. He feels a tightness in his chest. Not physical. Deeper, a weight on his sense of self. Mason almost runs into his back. Whoa, you good? Mason asks. Marius stares at the nearest line. The Emperor is disappointed in you. It hooks into a wound he did not show at the council table. The quiet fear that every Astartes carries, that no matter how many wars he wins, the master of mankind will look at him one day and say, not enough. For a second, he believes it. He sees the Emperor's golden face turn away. His grip on his bolter slackens. Sergeant, Elise's voice snaps in his ear. You are entering a mimetic hot zone. Do not read any unauthorized text. Do not listen to any unfamiliar voices. Focus on the mission. He drags his eyes away. I see the enemy's hand, he says. His voice is rough. It knows where to stab. Klein cuts in on the channel. Those are Black Star signatures, she says. It's using your concept space as a target. It found your fear of failure and wrote hooks for it. We're seeing similar messages tailored to other staff. You can't trust them for people with authority issues. You deserve this for guild carriers and so on. Mason looks down at his own boots. On the floor, near his foot, someone has written, "You could have saved her." His breath catches. He thinks of a girl he once tried to pull out of an SCP breach. A blur of teeth and fire and a scream cut off halfway. He never talked about it, not even in debrief. Okay, that's impressive, he says, voice shaking. Marius recognizes the look on Mason's face. Do not let it dig in, he says. These words are knives. They only cut if you grip them. Let go. He reaches up and taps his skull device again. Golden text flares, not as bright as before, but still there. He speaks, not to the storm, but to himself and to Mason. I am a servant of mankind, he says. I am not perfect. I will fail. But failure is not betrayal. I rise. I fight again. Mason repeats the last 3 words under his breath. I rise. I fight again. The weight on his chest eases. They move forward. At the far end of the corridor, a security door stands half open. Light pulses behind it in slow, hypnotic waves. A figure stands in the gap, back to them. White lab coat, brown hair, still. Doctor, Mason calls. This is Sergeant Reed. Talk to me. The figure turns. It is a woman in her 30s with dark circles under her eyes. Her ID badge reads, Dr. Hannah Lai, Memetics. Her pupils are blown wide. Her lips move, but the words that come out are not fully hers. The story was so messy, she says. So many loose ends. So much waste. Black Star will tidy it up. It will make it all mean something. Her voice carries a rhythm. Each phrase lands on an internal beat that makes Marius's skin crawl. The air around her shimmers like heat above desert sand. Behind her, through the doorway, Marius sees a room full of screens. The screens display text that slides and rewrites itself too fast to read. Dr. Lai, you are compromised, Elise says over the channel. Stand down. Do not speak any further. Security phrase, red apple. For a moment, Hannah's eyes clear. Red apple, she whispers. Oh God, I let it in. I thought I could cage it in language. It caged me. I'm sorry. I'm so... Her face twists. The words coming out of her mouth change mid-syllable, like a radio switching channels. Sorry. Strong. Story. Her hands jerk like a puppet's. She raises them toward Marius, fingers splayed. See? She says. And now her voice carries the weight of a crowd. Even you are a story, a toy soldier made of faith and flesh. Let me show you the better version. The corridor shivers. For a heartbeat, Marius is not in Site 19. He stands instead on a high balcony overlooking a city of clean towers and bright parks. Children play below. There are no walls, no guns, no cages. The Emperor walks beside him, not on a throne, but in simple robes, smiling. This is what we could have, the Emperor says in a warm human voice. If we let go of war, if we stop caging and killing. Stay here. Guard this. Forget the pain. It is so tempting. It is everything Marius has ever wished for in the silent parts of his heart. An Imperium without chains. Humanity at peace. It is also a lie. He looks closer. The children are playing, but none of them cast shadows. The Emperor's eyes are empty white. The towers have no doors. There are no old people, no scars, no signs of struggle. Too clean, Marius says softly. He closes his eyes and shouts the litany of reality. Pain is proof, he roars. Struggle is proof. A world without scars is a world without choice. I reject your dream. The balcony cracks. The city flickers like a bad projection. The Emperor's face peels off, revealing a spinning knot of words underneath. The illusion pops. Marius is back in the corridor. Dr. Lai stands only a few meters away. Her eyes stream with tears. Her mouth is still open, but no sound comes out now. Instead, symbols pour from her lips. Letters, numbers, sigils that twist in the air. They arc toward Marius. His skull device spits sparks. Golden text flares and blocks some of the symbols. Others slip through, brushing his mind. For each one, a small doubt flares and dies. What if the Emperor is wrong? What if the Foundation is right to hide? What if killing now saves more lives later? Each question is a needle. He feels himself bleed a little. Sergeant, Elise says. Her voice cuts through the noise. Lai's gone. That is Black Star talking. We need that channel closed. Now. Mason raises his rifle. His hands tremble. He has shot SCP-possessed hosts before. It never got easier. Permission to terminate? He asks, voice flat. Chandra's voice, on the same channel, is tight. Wait, Chandra says. Is there any chance of extracting her? If we kill every compromised researcher on first contact, we will soon have none left. Klein throws in data fast. Her brain is flooded with mimetic structures, Klein says. Whatever Black Star put in there, it rewrote her core beliefs. We don't have a clean way to unwind that in time. Every second she talks, she broadcasts. Marius feels the hooks in the words still pushing at him. He could kill her. One step forward. One sweep of his chainsword. She would be in pieces on the floor. The hooks would stop. He also knows she was trying to resist for a moment. He heard it in the way she choked on red apple. Mercy versus survival in one hallway. There is no time for a long debate. He makes the choice that will haunt him later. He steps forward, grips the front of Dr. Lai's lab coat with one hand, and lifts her off the floor. The symbols pouring from her mouth hit his helmet lenses and splatter like ink. His vision fuzzes. He squeezes. I am sorry, he says softly. Your will is trapped. I will free it. He twists. There is a sharp crack. Her body goes limp. The symbols vanish as if a projector has been turned off. The corridor's hum drops. The messages on the walls fade, leaving only faint smears of marker. Mason looks away. Chandra closes his eyes. Elise is silent for a long second, then speaks. Mimetic source terminated, she says. Her voice is steady, but not cold. Black Star's incursion into Sector M is receding. Hume levels stabilizing. All personnel, begin damage assessment. Marius sets Dr. Lai's body gently on the floor. He kneels for a brief second, one hand on her forehead. In death, duty ends, he murmurs. In memory, duty lives. He stands, slower than before. The hooks in his heart remain. He knows he did what had to be done. He also knows that knowing this does not make it easier. Mason touches his arm just once through the armor. She would have done the same for us, Mason says, voice rough. We ask people to risk their minds every day. Sometimes we lose them. It sucks. But you did not kill Hannah Lai. Black Star did. Marius does not answer. He looks down the corridor toward the mimetics lab and feels the storm's attention on him grow sharper. Later, in a smaller room off the main control center, the mood is grim. Elise, Klein, Chandra, Mason, and Marius gather again. This time there is no O5 symbol on the wall. The council watches, but through silent feeds. Klein brings up a diagram. The Sector M incursion changed something, she says. The Black Star signal is more coherent now. Before, it was like thunder. Loud, but shapeless. After using Dr. Lai as a mouth, it has a clearer rhythm. She plays an audio file. It sounds like distant static at first. Then, if you listen long enough, you hear patterns. A rising and falling beat, almost like chanting. Chandra shivers. I hate that, he says. Klein pauses the file. Here's what matters, she says. This thing can target individual minds with tailored hooks. It used Lai's expertise against us. It went straight for Sergeant Marius's core values. It almost cracked him. And this was just a hello. She looks at Marius, apologetic. Sorry, she says, but we have to be blunt. Marius nods. Bluntness is kindness in war, he says. If I am a weakness, you must know. You are both weapon and weak point, Klein says. Your faith and narrative density make you a prime anchor for Black Star. It can hurt you by twisting the stories you tell yourself. It doesn't have to break your body. It can corrupt your purpose. Chandra folds his hands. In Foundation terms, he says, it is not just a Keter-level physical threat. It is an existential memetic hazard. It can write directly into the part of you that says, I am Sergeant Marius who serves the Emperor. If it rewrites that sentence, we lose you. Mason looks at Marius. What happens if it convinces you the Emperor wants you to kill us? He asks quietly. Marius answers just as quietly. Then you must kill me first, he says. No one likes that. Elise speaks, voice clinical. Power scaling interlude then, she says. Let's be clear about how this thing can hurt him. Klein lists the points. 1, she says, ticking them off on her fingers. Black Star can generate custom memetic hooks that target a person's deepest fear or desire. For Marius, that's fear of failing his emperor and desire for a peaceful Imperium. 2, Chandra adds, it can hijack his religious imagery, make fake visions, fake voices. It has already tried. If he starts hearing the Emperor telling him to do things wildly out of character, we may not be able to tell from the outside. 3, Klein says, our own anti-memetic tools can backfire. The Scranton anchors and Hume fields that keep Black Star from warping reality also dull the warp connection that gives Marius some of his resistance. If we crank them too high, we slow the storm, but also strip his spiritual armor. 4, Elise says, it can use our files to upgrade its attacks. Every time we log his actions, his words, his weaknesses, we give it more data. Our own documentation process is feeding the enemy. Mason sighs. So we can't write about him, can't crank the anchors too high, can't trust his visions, and can't let him fight it alone, he says. That about right? 5, Marius says. They all look at him. It can make me fear myself, he says. That is the last blow. If I begin to doubt every thought, every choice, I will freeze. An unmoving blade is useless, so you must watch me, and I must trust you to tell me when I slip. Elise nods once. Then that's our operating picture, she says. Black Star can hurt our giant by attacking his mind, his faith, and his trust in himself. In return, Marius can hurt Black Star by pushing back with a stronger, older story that does not break when poked. She leans forward. The next move will not be in an archive or a hallway, she says. We've cut its feeler. We've blocked its first whisper. It will send something smarter, a focused avatar, a named antagonist if you like. Mason smirks faintly. Yeah, he says. It's learning to play boss fights. Klein taps the map. The pattern points to Sector K, she says. Keter Wing. That's where we keep our worst case assets. High risk, high containment, lots of reality anchors. Black Star is going to push there, and when it does, it will bring something that can look Marius in the eye and try to unmake him. Marius feels a familiar calm settle over him. Then I will meet it there, he says. Chandra looks at him, serious. And this time, Chandra says, we will try to find a way to win that does not use your guilt as ammunition. Marius nods. Faith is not blind, he says. It sees the blood and walks anyway. I will be ready. Outside, unseen above the concrete and steel of Site 19, the night sky over the desert flickers. The warp storm that only Marius can feel swells and tightens. Black Star has tasted his resistance and the Foundation's doctrine. It has learned their fears: failure, mercy, secrecy, control. Its next move will be sharper. Up to now, Marius has cut down a living flesh plague, burned a Black Star node out of an archive with faith and bolter fire, and strangled a friend of the Foundation to stop the storm's first memetic mouth. The warp has seen his doubts and hopes, Now it is reaching for the worst cages in Site 19. Sector K looks like the spine of a buried warship. Heavy blast doors line both sides of a wide hall. Each door is marked with huge letters: K01, K02, K03. Under each code is a small plaque with a red bar and a simple word: Kita. High-risk anomalies, end-of-the-world things. A hologram floats over the central table in the briefing room. It shows this hall in wireframe. Tiny icons mark Scranton anchors, backup generators, kill systems. Over it all is a faint shadow, pulsing in slow waves. That shadow is Black Star's current pressure field, Klein says. She zooms in. The strongest pulse is here, at junction K03, K04. That is between 602 cell and our primary reality anchor bank. If it cracks that spot, it gets a direct line into the nastiest things on Earth and the tools we use to hold them. Mason rubs his jaw. So if we lose that junction, we either lose the lizard or lose the anchors, he says. And if we lose both, we get a reptile with a reality warping god inside. Correct, Klein says. Standard counters will not work. We cannot drop the anchors to 0 or the whole wing softens. We cannot just vent the hull or nuke it, because that could blow half the cages open. And mimetic scrubbers are already compromised in Sector M. Chandra leans on the table. So our usual toolbox either feeds it or breaks our own walls, he says. We need something that can go in and fight inside the pressure without turning the whole wing into shrapnel. All eyes turn to Marius. He stands very still. I have fought under worse skies, he says. I can move inside this storm. Your people cannot. That is why I am here. Elise nods. You'll have support, she says. But you're the point of the spear. Here's the plan. She brings up a new layer on the map. Epsilon 11 will escort you to K03, she says. We keep Scranton anchors at 70% along the route. Enough to hold reality, not enough to crush your warp sense. Once you reach the junction, we'll spike the anchors around you to 90. That should pin Black Star's main body. Then you enter the breach zone and engage whatever it has manifested there. And if it takes a host, Mason asks. Elise looks grim. Then we prioritize the junction, she says. If that means killing a host, we do it. We cannot let the storm merge with a Kita-class entity. This is survival math. Chandra's eyes flick to Marius. And the cost to you? He asks. You're already carrying hooks. Sector M left marks. Marius taps the skull device on his chest. The machine spirit holds my memory, he says. My faith holds my purpose. Black Star may cut me. It may even brand my soul. But as long as I can still stand and still choose, I will be of use. Klein hesitates. There's one more open question, she says. We've seen the storm act through nodes and puppets. In Kata Wing, it will need more. A focused avatar. Something that can think and talk and fight. It will build that from what it has. Our files, our fears. And you. Mason frowns. Me. All of us, Klein says. But it has a special liking for Marius. It's tasted his story. Antagonist A will hit him where he lives. Marius accepts this with a slight nod. Then I will know I face the true blade, he says, not just its shadow. Elise looks around the table one last time. Any last objections? She asks. No one speaks. Then we move, she says. Black Star is cutting at our spine. We're going to push back. The walk to Kita Wing is short and heavy. Marius leads again. Nine-tailed fox spreads behind him in a wedge, rifles ready. Scranton anchors hum in the walls. Each one they pass sends a small, painful tug through his body, as if his soul catches on unseen hooks. He grits his teeth and keeps going. At the entrance to Sector K, 2 massive blast doors stand shut. Each door is a thick slab of metal and ceramite. Warning signs cover them. No unauthorized entry. K-class event risk. Inside his helmet, Marius hears Elise's voice. Opening Sector K in 3, 2, 1. The doors grind apart. Cold, dry air pours out, smelling of concrete, oil, and old fear. Lights flicker on in the hall beyond in sequence, like a giant spine waking. Mason mutters under his breath. "Every time I come down here, I hope all the cells will be empty," he says. "They never are." "Be glad you can hope," Marius answers. He steps into Sector K. Reality feels thick here. The anchors are stronger, closer together. The warp's roar is a dull mutter at the edge of his mind. At the same time, he can sense sharp spikes of wrongness behind certain doors. The contained things push against the clamps of the world. They pass KMO 1. The plaque under the number is blank. "That's intentional," Mason says, when Marius glances at it. "Some things you don't even name on the door. Names give them handles." They pass K02. A small window in the door shows only darkness. Marius can feel something looking back through the dark. It is not curious. It is not kind. It wants to know the weak points in his armor. "The shy guy," Mason says quietly. "Don't look long. Don't show photos. Don't draw. Don't think about it too hard." "I understand," Marius says. He does not slow. At K03, they stop. The junction is here, a cross corridor where the main Kita hall meets the anchor bank. To the left, behind thick walls, is SCP-682. To the right is a room full of humming machines that keep the entire wing nailed to real space. Straight ahead, at the crossing, the air ripples. Black Star has pushed through. The ripple is not visible, but its effect is. The walls around the junction bend a little, as if viewed through a hot haze. The floor tiles do not quite line up. The strip lights overhead flicker on their own rhythm, not with the rest of the wing. A patch of shadow hangs in the center of the crossing. It is the size of a man. It is not cast by anything. "Control, this is Reed," Mason says. "We have visual on manifestation." "Anchors at junction spiking to 90%, Elise replies. "Hold position until they stabilize, then advance." The hum in the walls rises. Marius feels it like a pressure in his bones. His link to the warp dimmed when he stepped into Sector K. Now it is pushed even further down. The storm's roar outside becomes a muffled thud. The shadow in the junction trembles. It thins, stretches, and takes shape. A man steps out of it. He's tall, but not Astartes tall. He wears a black suit and tie, white shirt, polished shoes. On his lapel glints a small silver pin, a circle with 3 arrows, the Foundation's symbol. His face is calm. His eyes are wrong. Mason swears under his breath. "That looks like 053, Chandra says in everyone's ear. "Or at least an excellent copy of the council member who spoke to us earlier. That is not surprising. Black Star has access to our files and our fears." The figure smiles. "Director Shu," it says. The voice is 053's voice. Flat, measured. "Dr. Klein, Dr. Singh, Sergeant Reed, Brother Sergeant Marius, thank you for coming to my hall." The Fox operatives all tense. "Guns up," Mason says. "Safety off. Do not fire until ordered. And do not believe anything it says." The avatar tilts its head. "I am only speaking your language," it says. "You like chains of command. You like orders. You like the comfort of necessary evil. I'm simply giving you a face for those ideas." Its gaze shifts to Marius. "And you," it says. "You like duty and sacrifice. You like to be the shield. You fear failing your golden corpse, King, and everyone who hides behind you. I like that. It makes you sharp." Marius steps forward. He raises his bolter slightly. "You are no master of this fortress," he says. "You are a parasite, a storm that feeds on our worst choices." The avatar spreads its hands. "I am a story," it says. "Nothing more, nothing less. I do not make your choices. I show you the ending they lead to. That is what storms do. They gather what is loose and throw it in your face." Elise's voice cuts in. "Black Star," she says, speaking to the avatar as if it is another researcher at the table. "Your node in C Delta is gone. Your mimetic mouth in Sector M is shut. You are pinned in Cater Wing with anchors at 90%. This is not a good position for you." The avatar looks up at one of the cameras and smiles. "Oh, Director," it says, "you of all people should know that a Keter box is not a prison. It is an arena." The floor under its feet warps. Tiles crack and rise, forming a low ring around the junction. The air above darkens. For a moment, it looks like an open sky, deep and starless. Then thin lines of light sketch symbols in the other dark, a circle, a triangle, a branching tree. Marius feels the warp pushing against the anchors. The machines strain. Warning runes flash on wall panels. The hum rises to a whine. Reality does not break, but it stretches. The avatar's form flickers. 053's suit becomes a black coat with a high collar. Then blue ceramite pauldrons with a white omega. Then rust-red armor with a stylized 8-pointed star. It cycles through shapes, testing them. Finally, it settles on a mix. Half its body is clad in Foundation black, with a silver pin. The other half wears a twisted version of Ultramarine armor. Blue plates cracked and veined with black. Aquila turned upside down. Its face is a shifting blend of 053's calm features and Marius's own, broken and scarred. "This shape will do," it says. "I will call myself Editor Prime. SCP 5001 if you need a number. I am the version of you that understands how to win." Mason mutters, "I hate this," under his breath. Marius steps onto the cracked tiles. Nine-tailed fox spread into a ring around the arena. Weapons tracking the avatar, staying clear of the warped center. "Control," Mason says. "We have a primary avatar, engaging." "Hold fire unless Editor Prime leaves the ring," Elise says. "Anchors are redlining. If we push them harder, they'll fail." "Marius, you're up." Marius grips his bolter. He feels slow inside the anchor field. Every motion takes effort. His link to the warp is thin, but still there. It gives him just enough sense of the storm to feel how Editor Prime is rooted in it. He remembers old war councils. "Kill the head," a chaplain once told him, pointing at a tyrannid synapse beast on a holomap. "The rest will thrash without aim." He takes one step forward. "Editor Prime," he says, "you are a full story. I will erase you." The avatar smiles. "No," it says. "You will edit me. You will make me better. That is what you do. You clean. You cut. You sacrifice someone so others can live. Let me show you what you could be." It moves. For something half anchored in a warp pressure field, it is fast. One moment it stands at the center. The next, it is right in front of Marius, Foundation black hand reaching for his chest. Marius fires on reflex. The bolter roars, a single shot straight into the avatar's torso. The shell slams in and explodes. Fragments of text and light burst out. For a heartbeat, Editor Prime's middle is missing. Through the gap, Marius sees a spinning vortex of words and images, files, fears, memories. Then the wound closes. The avatar laughs softly. "You cannot kill what you keep rewriting," it says. "Every shot is a draft." Its hand slams into Marius's chest. It does not hit the ceramite. It phases through the armor, through the reinforced ribs, and into something deeper, Marius feels fingers close around a thought. Not just any thought. His core line. I am Brother Sergeant Marius of the Ultramarines. I serve the Emperor of Mankind. The avatar squeezes. Pain flares, white and cold. Inside his skull, in his gut, in the gene seed glands behind his ribs. The sentence tears. For a moment, every word in it feels optional. You could be more. You could be less. You could be free. He roars and slams a gauntleted fist into Editor Prime's face. Bone and metal and data crunch. The avatar staggers back. Half its head caves in under the blow, then leaks letters instead of blood. Its eye sockets fill with spinning symbols. They rearrange themselves, rebuild the damaged face into a new, sharper version. Marius staggers too. The pain in his chest does not fade. He feels something burned into the place Editor Prime grabbed. A brand made of words. It pulses with each heartbeat. You see, Editor Prime says. Its voice now has an echo, as if two people speak at once. I do not have to break your body. I only have to mark your sentence. Every time you say your name, you will feel me. Codex note. A mimetic brand is a wound made of thought that hurts whenever its owner questions who they are. Mason's voice is tight over the channel. Sergeant, your vitals are spiking, he says. You need to pull back. No, Marius growls. He lifts his chainsword. The engine snarls. Teeth spin. Sparks fly as the blade bites air. He charges. It is an iconic Astartes moment. An 8-foot warrior in blue, charging with sword spinning, roaring a battle cry. Even in this narrow hall, even under the crush of anchors, there is power in it. For the Emperor, he bellows. He swings for the avatar's neck. Editor Prime ducks. It moves with a mirror of his own training, but wrong. Its warped ultramarine half flows into the proper angles and stances. Its foundation half twists them, cutting corners, aiming for maximum effect with minimum honor. It steps inside the arc of his sword and hits him again. This time, its warped gauntlet slams into his helmet. For a moment, Marius sees not the hall, but a viewing deck above Macraga. Robert Guilliman, his Primarch, stands there tall and calm. His gaze is on the stars, not on Marius. You failed at Corinth, the Primarch says without turning. You lost the line. Brothers died because of you. That is not true, Marius spits. He was not even at Corinth. That was another company, another war. He knows this. But the image hits anyway. The deck blurs. The Primarch's cloak turns into a lab coat. Guilliman becomes Director Elise. She turns away from a map of Earth. You failed in Sector M, she says. Hannah died because of you. That is, he starts. He did kill her. He broke her neck with his own hands. He did it to stop Black Star. He knows that. He also knows he will see her face in his sleep. Editor Prime's voice whispers in all those images. You kill to save, it says. You always have. You burned worlds for your Emperor. You snapped a woman's neck for your Director. You are already mine. Let me take the choice away. I will do the math for you. No more doubt. Only clean lines. Marius stumbles. His sword bites only air. He tries to push the illusions away, but they layer. Macraga, Site 19, dead brothers, dead doctors. The brand in his chest pulses with each remembered failure. Outside the ring, warning lights flash. Elise's voice is tight. Anchors at junction slipping to 85%, she says. The strain of the duel is shaking reality. We can't spike them higher without blowing the bank. If Marius falls, Editor Prime gets a direct path into the anchors. Chandra speaks low. Can we pull him out? He asks. No clear shot without crossing the warped zone, Mason says. If we step in, we give it more toys. Editor Prime feels their fear. It smiles with half of Marius's face. This is the better story, it says to him, voice soft and close. You become the knife, not the shield. You accept that some souls are fuel. That is already true. Your Emperor knows this. Your Director knows this. I will just take the guilt away. Say yes, and I will make the pain quiet. It reaches for him again. This time it does not aim for his chest. Its hand moves toward his skull device, the blessed memory core. If I write myself into your archive, it says, your litanies will be mine. Your prayers will carry my rhythm. Every time you speak your faith, you will speak me. Marius feels a cold spike of terror. If that happens, he will be a weapon that whispers Black Star with every word, a walking taint, a Trojan horse in blue armor. For one heartbeat, he almost lets go, because the temptation is not only to be stronger, it is to stop hurting, to stop counting the dead, to be a clean tool that never doubts. Then he remembers something very small, a guardsman on a nameless world, years ago, a thin young man with shaking hands who stood his ground behind a broken barricade while tyrannid claws tore the sky. Marius had fought above him, never knowing his name. Later, he found the boy's body. He put a small, battered aquila, a two-headed eagle, into the dead hand. He had thought then, this one life mattered, not as fuel, as itself. He clings to that thought now. No, he says, the word is not loud. It is iron. I choose to feel it, he says. Every death, every failure. I will not trade my guilt for your clean lie. He does something Editor Prime does not expect. He rips his own helmet off. The seals pop. The helm falls, clanging on the cracked tiles. Cold air hits his face. The brand in his chest flares, trying to rewrite his name. He opens his mouth and begins to chant, not through vox grills, not through machine filters, just his own voice, raw. Emperor of mankind, he says, Lord of terror, master of us all. I am Marius. I am small. I am flawed. I have killed in your name. I have failed in your name. I ask not for a clean story. I ask for strength to stand again. Each sentence is short. Each sentence is honest in a way most of his prayers are not. There is no pageantry, no grand titles, just a soldier telling the truth. The skull on his chest flickers. For a heartbeat, the machine spirit hesitates. It has been fed for years on set litanies and battle psalms. Now it hears something new, a confession, a request that does not demand victory, only the will to try. It decides this too, is service. Golden text bursts out of it again, not the stiff lines of codex law, not the rigid forms of battle doctrine, simple words, names of fallen brothers, names of saved civilians, dates, places, tiny fragments of real messy life. They spiral around Marius and slam into Editor Prime's reaching hand. The avatar recoils. Stop, it hisses. You are making the story dirty. You are adding noise. Life is noise, Marius growls. He steps in. Without his helmet, he sees more clearly. The warped arena, the flickering shadows, the half Foundation, half Ultramarine figure. He also sees, in Editor Prime's eyes, the thin line of fear. It is not afraid of his strength. It is afraid of his refusal to be edited. He swings his chainsword again. This time, he does not aim for a killing blow. He aims for the avatar's arm, the one reaching for his memory core. The teeth bite. They rip through warped flesh and concept text. Symbols spray like blood. The arm comes off at the elbow, spinning away in a trail of changing words. Editor Prime screams. The sound is like 1,000 hard drives failing at once. The anchors in the walls flare white. Reality slams harder. The ring of warped tiles cracks. The fake sky above shatters into shards of dark that blink out one by one. Editor Prime's form staggers, flickering between 053, Marius, Elise, Hannah Lai, and a child with no face. Marius does not stop. He drives forward, shoulder checks the avatar, and pins it against the wall. With one hand, he holds the chainsaw to its throat. With the other, he grabs the fake Ultramarine half by the gorget. "You are not me," he snarls. "You are not my master. You are not my emperor. You do not get to decide who I kill." Editor Prime's remaining hand claws at his chest. It cannot reach the skull device. It digs into his armor instead. The mimetic brand burns. New hooks try to form. "You will regret this," it hisses. "You cannot carry all that blood alone. You will break. When you do, I will be there, in the crack." "Maybe," Marius says. "But that will be my fall, not your victory." He shoves the chainsword in. Teeth scream. They bite through the avatar's throat, then its core. Letters and light and data spray out. For a second, Marius feels his own memories tugged, as if the blade might cut them too. He holds the image of that nameless guardsman in his mind like a shield. The blade shears through. Editor Prime splits from shoulder to hip. Half of it falls forward, half back. Both halves break apart into swarms of tiny, dark points that slam against the anchor field and burn away. The warp pressure drops. The hall snaps back into focus. The cracked tiles settle. The flicker in the light stops. The air tastes like ozone and dust. Marius sways. He is bleeding from a cut on his cheek where a flying shard of warped reality nicked him. His chest feels like someone hammered a nail made of ice into it. The brand left by Editor Prime still pulses. He is still himself. He is also marked. Fox operatives rush forward. Mason reaches him first. He grabs Marius's arm to steady him. "Sergeant," he says, "talk to me. Name, rank, favorite food, something normal." Marius snorts once, despite the pain. "Marius," he says, "Brother Sergeant, 7th Company, Ultramarines. I have not tasted food in over a century, but I recall enjoying thick ration stew on Macragge." Mason lets out a shaky breath. "Good enough for me," he says. Elise's voice comes over the channel. "Anchors in Kedda wings stabilizing at 88%, she says. "Black Star pressure field at junction has dropped by 60%. Not gone, but weaker. Editor Prime is no longer visible on any sensor." Marius report. He clicks his Vox. "I am alive," he says. "The avatar is destroyed, but it branded me. It burned a hook into the line that defines me. I can feel it." He presses a hand to his chest. "It hurts when I doubt," he adds. "When I question my own name, my own duty. It pulls." Klein's voice is grim. "That fits the data," she says. "We saw a spike in mimetic residue when it touched you. You're carrying a fragment of Black Star now. Not enough to spread on its own. Enough to act as a beacon." Chandra speaks softly. "A corruption that does not control you yet, but waits for weak moments," he says. "Like a toxin that only flows when the heart stutters." Marius nods. "That is a good image," he says. He does not like it. He knows demon scars that work the same way. Marks that do nothing until a man is tired, afraid, alone. Then they whisper. They grow. "Evac from Sector K in measured order," Elise says. "We'll run full scans on the junction and the anchors. Marius, get to Medikey, then to debrief. We need to understand your wound." The Foundation Medikey Bay is not a chapel. It smells of antiseptic, plastic, and old coffee. There are no shrines on the walls. There are machines that beep and hum and shine blue light into wounds. Marius sits on a reinforced bench, while a medtech with shaking hands waves scanners over his chest. The results appear on a screen. A stylized image of his upper body, bones, gene seed organs, the black pulsing mark near his primary heart, wrapped around a cluster of nerves. It's like a tumor made of code, Klein says, studying the scan. Not growing, just sitting, waiting for the right trigger condition. Chandra stands beside her. Trigger, he asks. What kind? Self-doubt, Marius says, before she can answer. When I thought I had failed my Primarch, when I thought the Emperor had turned his face away, when I killed Dr. Lai, those were the moments it bit deepest. Klein nods. Our mimetic analysis agrees, she says. The brand strength spikes when your self-concept wavers. It's literally a wound made of, what if I am not good enough? Chandra rubs his temples. So the more we lean on his willingness to sacrifice, the more we risk pushing him into the doubt that feeds the wound, he says. Perfect. The better a soldier he is, the more vulnerable he becomes. Marius listens. He feels tired, not just in his muscles, in his soul. He has stood in medici bays before, listening to apothecaries talk about cracked gene seed, poison in his blood, warp taint on his bones. He has always accepted the cost. This feels worse. Flesh can be cut out. Thoughts are harder. Elise enters the bay. Her eyes go straight to the scan, then to his face. Can we remove it? She asks Klein. Not without cutting into his sense of self, Klein says. We can build mimetic counterscripts, anchoring phrases. But surgery, we're talking about rewriting his core beliefs. That might make things worse. Can we contain it? Elise asks. Chandra answers this time. Yes and no, he says. We can monitor. We can build protocols. We can set external checks. But this is not an SCP we lock in a box. It is sitting in our ally's chest. Mason leans against the wall, arms crossed. So we treat him like we treat 682, he says, only with more consent. Marius snorts again. I am no beast in a tank, he says. I can agree to guardrails. I will not agree to a cage. Elise meets his eyes. And I will not put you in one, she says. Not yet. You saved Cater Wing. You cut down Editor Prime when the anchors could not. You still have your name. You still chose. She glances at the scan. But we also cannot pretend that Brand is nothing, she says. You are now our best sensor for Black Star, and also one of its best handles. Chandra nods slowly. The Ethics Committee recommends a middle path, he says. We treat Sergeant Marius as both asset and patient. We build protocols around his use. We give him a say. We also make sure that if he falls, we can stop him fast. Marius accepts that without anger. It is no insult to be feared, he says. I have seen whole worlds die because we did not fear the right things in time. Klein brings up a new file on her tablet. Here's what we're proposing, she says. Operating limits under the new mandate. She reads. 1. Marius does not act alone in any Black Star engagement. At least one senior Foundation officer and one ethics observer on scene. 2. He does not enter high mimetic zones without an external anchor, a phrase or symbol chosen by him that we can use to pull him back. 3. Scranton anchors around him stay between 60 and 80%, enough to keep Black Star from fully manifesting through him, not enough to completely dull his resistance. 4. Any time we detect a spike in his brand, measured by neural scans and Hume drift, we pull him out and debrief. No exceptions, no matter how bad the situation looks. 5, Elise adds. If he ever claims to be directly hearing the Emperor or any other superior telling him to kill us or release anomalies, We treat that as a possible Black Star voice until proven otherwise. Mason winces. That's going to be awkward, he says. Marius actually smiles, small and sad. Faith that cannot stand up to questions deserves no worship, he says. If my master truly speaks, his will can bear your doubt. Chandra's eyes soften for a moment. You are a strange comfort, he says. Elise looks at all of them. This gets us through today, she says. But Black Star is not done. Destroying Editor Prime hurt it. It also taught it how far we will go. The next move will be bigger. It will reach beyond Site 19. We're already seeing ripples in other sites and in civilian dreams. Klein nods. It's starting to tap into global belief structures, she says. Religion, myths, conspiracy theories. It is writing itself into the stories people tell about reality, not just our files. Mason whistles softly. So if people start dreaming about a black star and a blue giant, he says, we're screwed. Marius looks down at his scar. He feels a faint, distant pull, like the tide. I can feel where it is thickest, he says slowly, like pressure on the brand. It is heavier in one direction. Klein's eyes light up. You can track it, she says. He nods. Yes, he says. Not with maps and numbers. With weight. But I can point. Chandra looks at Elise. That is both useful and terrifying, he says. Elise thinks for a long moment. Then she gives a small, decisive nod. Then we lean into it, she says. We use the thing that hurts us as a compass. Marius, we're going to ask you to go on a pilgrimage. The word is odd on her tongue. In Foundation terms, she says, that means you and a hand-picked team will travel to our highest secure command node, the place where the SCP classification system was born, the closest thing we have to a throne. Mason blinks. Site-01, he says. You're sending him to the council. Not exactly, Elise says. Site-01 is a set of moving nodes and deep bunkers, but there is one anchor point that ties them all together, a kind of conceptual hub. The council calls it the seat. If Black Star is learning our rules, it will reach for that soon. We need to get there first. Marius feels the brand grow a little colder. The seat, the heart of this world's doctrine, its version of a golden throne. I will go, he says. Elise nods once. I'll go with you, she says. Mason lifts a hand. Me too, he says. Somebody has to explain the weird acronyms on the way. Chandra smiles grimly. And someone has to represent the part of us that whispers, "Are you sure?" when everyone else says, "This is necessary," he says. I will come. Klein hesitates, then shakes her head. My place is here, she says. I need to watch the data, hold Site 19, and shout at you if the graphs turn bad. I'll be in your ear the whole time. Marius looks at each of them. A director who holds a war in her head. A soldier who has seen too many strange deaths. An ethics officer who fears what necessary can excuse. A scientist who turns fear into graphs. Strange battle brothers, but brothers and sisters all the same. Then we make ready, he says. Inside his chest, the brand pulses once more. It is not stronger. It is not weaker. It is simply there, a constant reminder that he is wounded and still choosing. Up to now, Marius has fought Black Star's shadows in halls and archives and the Keter spine of Site 19. He has killed a mimetic avatar and taken a scar of doubt in return. Now, he is bound for the seat of the Foundation's power, where his own faith, their doctrine, and the Storm's hunger will all meet. Up to now, Marius has burned out a Black Star node, strangled a friend to close a mimetic mouth, and killed Editor Prime in the Keter spine at the cost of a brand on his soul. The storm is weaker but not broken. It is reaching for the Foundation's seat. Marius, Elise, Mason, and Chandra are heading there with his wound as their compass. The journey begins under the desert. A maglev train waits in a hidden tunnel far below Site 19. It is a black spear of metal on a silent track. No markings, no windows. Only a single door and a small Foundation symbol near the nose. Armed guards stand on the platform. They check badges and biometrics 3 times. They scan Marius from helm to boots. The scanners complain about his gene seed, his armor, his weapons, and the mimetic brand in his chest. The techs flinch at the readings but wave him on. "Welcome to the Ghost Line," Mason says as the doors hiss open. "If you're on this train, either you're very important or the world is ending." "Sometimes both," Chandra mutters. Inside, the train is narrow but sturdy. Bolted seats, no view outside. The walls hum with power. There is a small medicine nook at one end, with cabinets of supplies and a fold-out cot. At the other end is a tiny chapel, no bigger than a closet, with a simple bench and a blank metal plate on the wall where any faith can imagine its own symbol. Marius has to turn sideways to move down the aisle. He steps past the medici station. A young medic sits there, hands folded, eyes wide. She looks at his armor as if it is a walking tank. "Sergeant," Elise says. She is already seated across from the chapel door. "You should let them check your wound during transit." Marius shakes his head. "The medici have done all they can for flesh," he says. "This wound is in thought. I will tend it in the chapel." Elise studies him for a moment, then nods. "Fine," she says. "But if you collapse, I'm writing 'told you so' in your file." Mason drops into a seat nearby. "I'll keep an eye on him," he says. Chandra takes the seat opposite Elise. "Someone has to talk about the soul while you two argue about files and guns," he says. The doors close. The train starts to move. There is no jolt. One moment they are still. The next they feel a steady, smooth pull. The hum in the walls deepens. Somewhere ahead the track curves toward the seat of the Foundation. Marius enters the chapel. He has seen grand chapels, golden halls on Macragge, war shrines on battle barges, cathedrals filled with incense and song. This tiny space is nothing like that. It is bare. The bench creaks faintly when he kneels beside it. The blank plate on the wall reflects his own face back at him. He stares at that face, scars on the cheek, short dark hair with a few grey strands, eyes that have seen too many dead and not enough peace. No halo, no glow, just a tired warrior. He places one palm flat against the plate. "Emperor," he says softly, "if you can hear through this world's noise, listen." No voice answers. That is normal. He speaks anyway. "I am wounded," he says. "The brand of Black Star sits in my chest. It pulls when I doubt. It offers easy answers. I do not ask you to take the pain away. I ask that you help me feel it without breaking." He pauses. He thinks of Hanalai's face, of Editor Prime's hiss, of the nameless guardsman holding a chipped Aquila with dead hands, of Elise's hard eyes and Chandra's worried ones, of Mason's rough jokes. "I have found new allies," he says. "They fight in the dark like our Inquisition, but with different words. They lie to save lives. They cage monsters. They erase memories. Some of them hate what they do. Some think it is the only way. I do not know if their doctrine pleases you. I only know they bleed for mankind." His chest aches, not from his heart, from the brand. It pulses at the edge of speech. "You have failed. You could have saved her. You are a weapon. Let me aim you." He grits his teeth. "I will not let the storm define me," he whispers. I am not only a weapon, I am a man who chooses, even if my choices are ugly. Behind him, there is a soft cough. Permission to enter? Chandra asks. Marius does not turn his head. You do not need my leave, he says. This is your chapel as much as mine. Chandra steps inside and sits on the bench. He does not kneel. He folds his hands and stares at the same blank plate. I don't pray much, he says, at least not to anyone with a name. But I talk to the empty sometimes. Same as you, I guess. Marius lets out a slow breath. What do you say? He asks. Mostly that I am tired of being the one who raises his hand and says, maybe don't, Chandra says. When the council decides to erase a town to cover a breach, when a director wants to dissect a child-shaped anomaly to understand it, when someone like you is treated as a tool instead of a person. He glances at Marius. You know they are already writing protocols that treat you like an SCP, right? He says. Asset M01. Containment pending. Termination conditions under review. Marius nods once. I would be more worried if they did not, he says. Fear can be wisdom. Chandra huffs. That's what they say about me, he says. The ethics committee. The people who never say yes. But fear can also be a cage. It can make you accept horrors because you're scared the alternative is worse. He looks back at the plate. We built a doctrine around that fear, he says. We call it the veil. The world must not know. Civilians must not see. We decide in the dark. No one judges us. That kind of doctrine eats you from the inside. Marius listens. He hears another layer to the man's words. Guilt. You think you have failed, he says. Chandra smiles sadly. Of course I have, he says. I signed off on things I still see when I close my eyes. I let some monsters live because killing them would cause more harm. I let some people die because saving them would open the veil too wide. There is no clean story. That is true in any war, Marius says. He shifts, his armor creaking against the wall. My codex says we must weigh cost and gain, he says. It does not say we must be pure, only that we must be honest with ourselves about what we do. Chandra looks at him. And your emperor? He asks. What does he say? Marius's hand tightens on the plate. He does not speak to me, he says. Not in words, in duty, in the fact that mankind still exists, in the weight I feel when I think of turning away. Chandra nods slowly. So your God is duty, he says. Mine is conscience. Or maybe they are the same thing wearing different masks. He leans back against the bench. Here is my fear, he says. We are about to stand before the supreme authority of my world, the O5 Council, the seat. They will offer you a deal, power under law, a mandate to act. I'm afraid they will twist your faith to fit our doctrine of secrecy and control. I'm afraid you will say yes because they wrap it in pretty words about necessity. Marius finally turns his head. Our dogmas do not match, he says, but we have the same wound. We both fear what we become when we do what must be done. He taps his chest. This brand hurts when I doubt, he says. Perhaps that is a gift. Pain to remind me that easy answers are traps. Chandra gives a tired smile. I never thought I'd be glad someone had a mimetic tumor, he says. But if it keeps you from becoming our perfect little war god, I'll take it. The train hums on. Above the chapel, the world slides by. Rock, then empty tunnels, then other secret lines. Somewhere far overhead, normal people drive cars and argue about small things and never know. After some time, the medtech calls them. Dr. Singh, she says, poking her head into the chapel. Director Shu wants everyone in the forward compartment. There's a fluctuation. The forward compartment is narrow and full of screens. Elise stands near the main console, watching lines of data scroll. Mason stands beside her, hand on the rail. His jaw is tight. The screens show maps, not of land, of Hume levels and black star pressure. The storm is a dark bloom spreading across the globe. One bright line runs from Site 19 to the moving point that is the train. "We're being followed," Mason says. "More like tracked," Klein says over the speaker. She is still back at Site 19, voice riding the secure link. The brand in Marius's chest is acting like a beacon. Black Star knows approximately where you are. It's shaping a tendril along the maglev path. Marius steps closer. He feels it. The pull in his chest grows stronger. The pain is not sharp. It is a steady tug, like a hook in deep flesh. "How long until it reaches us?" Elise asks. "Minutes," Klein says. "It's using weak points along the line. Old junctions, retired nodes, forgotten anomalies we buried in the walls instead of giving them numbers. The good news is, anchors along the route are still holding. The bad news is, there's a gap." "Of course there is," Chandra says. "Where?" "Transit Hub Theta 7, Klein says. "An old switching station. It was never fully upgraded with anchors because we stopped using it for regular traffic. You're going right through it." Elise's eyes narrow. "Options?" she asks. "Slow down, and the storm hits you there harder," Klein says. "Speed up, and you hit it at full tilt. Divert, and you risk exposing the seed node by leaving the ghost line. Pick your poison." Marius speaks. "We do not run," he says. "We meet it where it tries to ambush us. Better in an empty hub than in the seat itself." Elise nods once. "Agreed," she says. "Klein, hold anchor output steady. No spikes that might shake the track. We'll handle Theta 7 on board." She looks at Marius. "Armored giant," she says. "We have a mid-transit breach coming. I'm giving you one job. Keep whatever shows up off this train." Marius bows his head a little. "I will," he says. Mason checks his rifle. "If there's room to shoot," he says, "I'll help." Chandra sighs. "I'll do what I do best," he says. "Complain about how this is a bad idea and then try to keep you honest." The train slows. Not much. Just enough that they can feel it. A soft drag. The lights flicker. A new tunnel opens ahead. Wider, with branching tracks and old signs. Theta 7. The walls are stained and cracked. Rust creeps along unused rails. This place feels forgotten. The pull in Marius's chest spikes. He steps to the center of the compartment. "Everyone stay behind me," he says. "If Black Star wants me, let it come through me first." The lights go out. Not all of them. Just enough that the room falls into deep shadow. Emergency strips glow faint red along the floor. The hum of the train changes pitch, then steadies. In the middle of the compartment, space folds. There is no flash, no sound, just a slow, wrong twist, like someone has taken the air and wrung it. A shape steps out of the fold. At first, it looks exactly like Marius. Blue armor, white omega. Same height, same scars on the face, even the same skull device on the chest. For a heartbeat, everyone thinks it is a reflection. Then they see the eyes. Marius's eyes are tired but human. This thing's eyes are flat black, like holes cut in reality. When it turns its head, its movements are too smooth, like animations played at the wrong speed. Mason swears softly. "Mirror Marius," he says. "That's new." Chandra swallows. "Mirror Foe B," he says. "A twisted variant, built from our data and his fears." The copy smiles. "I am not twisted," it says. Its voice is Marius's, but with an echo. "I am the perfected version. I am Sergeant Marius as he should be, without hesitation, without doubt, without guilt. Marius steps forward. He studies the copy. At first he feels only anger, then he sees details. The armor is cleaner, no scratches that do not serve a purpose. The aquila on the chest is sharper. The chainsword's teeth are spotless. The skull device is fused into the ceramite, glowing with steady dark light. "What are you?" Marius asks. "I am the editor's cut," the copy says. "SCP 5000-B, the hero your emperor deserves, the weapon your Foundation needs. I kill when the numbers say so. I do not cry after. I do not waste time on litanies of regret." It looks at Elise. "You do not have to argue with this one," it says. "Give me targets. Give me a ratio. I will act. Entire towns for the Veil? Approved. Millions for stability? Approved. Kill the lizard, and half the staff with it? Approved. No nightmares. No ethics committee." It looks at Chandra. "Think of the relief," it says softly. "You can stop carrying the weight. Hand it to me. I will be your butcher, clean and silent." Chandra's face goes pale. He takes a step back. The copy turns to Marius again. "You cling to pain," it says. "You think your guilt is noble. It is not. It is vanity. You enjoy the feeling of suffering for your choices. It makes you feel important. I have cut that out. I am pure." Marius's brand flares. The copy's words strike deep. He has thought some of that in his darkest moments. That maybe his sorrow is self-indulgent. That maybe a better servant would simply do what must be done and not look back. Pain tightens around his heart. The copy senses it. "See," it says, "I am your flaw removed, your duty sharpened. Blackstar does not want you weak. It wants you efficient. Join with me. Let me in. Together we will be the perfect soldier for both throne and Siete." It takes a step forward. The floor under its boots does not groan. The train does not shake. It is too light, too precise. It is an idea of Marius, not the full weight. "Sergeant," Elise says quietly, "this is not you. It is what the storm thinks you should be. Do not let it make your choices for you." Chandra nods, voice tight. "That thing is every time I bit my tongue and let a horror happen," he says. "Take it from someone who has tried to be purely rational about suffering. It does not make you clean, it makes you empty." Mason raises his rifle. "Also," he says, "it is very punchable." The copy does not look at them. It keeps its gaze on Marius. "You talk about choice," it says. "Choice is slow, choice is messy. People die while you think. I do not think. I calculate. I see the line from action to outcome and I walk it. That is why Blackstar trusts me more than you." Marius breathes in. His chest hurts. His hand tightens on his chainsword hilt. "I do not worship pain," he says. "You are right about that. My guilt is not holy. It is simply honest. It means I remember that the dead were real." He shakes his head. "You are not pure," he says. "You are incomplete. You are my strength without my limits. You are my duty without my mercy. That does not make you better. It makes you dangerous." The copy tilts its head. "You are afraid of me," it says. "Yes," Marius says, "because part of me wants to be you." He does not look away from that fear. He lets it sit in his mind like a knife he refuses to pick up. The brand in his chest writhes. The room feels thinner. Klein's voice crackles over the speaker. "Blackstar pressure is spiking around your car," she says. "It's trying to turn the whole compartment into a pocket edit zone. If it succeeds, it can rewrite the train into something else." "Suggestions?" Elise snaps. "End the contact fast," Klein says, "or get out of that pocket. I don't care how. Just don't let it finish." The copy spreads its arms. "You cannot run," it says. "We share the same bones. Wherever you go, I am the version you could have been. Let me show you. It moves. One instant, it stands in front of Marius. The next, it is inside his guard, chainsword already swinging. Marius meets the blow. Teeth scream as they clash, sparks fly. The impact jolts through both of them. For a heartbeat, train car and battlefield overlap. Steel walls become ruined rock. The hum of the maglev becomes the roar of distant guns. They are fighting on two levels at once. In the car, blades clash and boots slam. In Marius's mind, he sees flickers of other lives, worlds where he made the efficient choice. A planet burned before the Tyranids landed, saving billions but killing millions. A cult cell wiped out along with the hive city that hid it. Hannah Lai shot from across the hall instead of held while she choked on symbols. The copy uses those images as feints. See, it says between blows. So many saved by a clean cut, so few sacrificed. These numbers are acceptable. Why cry over them? Marius grunts as a strike glances off his pauldron. You show me only the bodies, he says. You do not show me what those deaths did to the living. He blocks another swing and shoves forward. The copy yields, steps back, and twists. It is fast. Every move is one Marius could make, but without his small hesitations. It does not worry about hitting bulkheads or hurting bystanders. It assumes everyone nearby is either acceptable collateral or strong enough to survive. A stray sweep of its chainsword slices a rail above Mason's head. Sparks rain down. Mason ducks and swears. Hey, he shouts, keep your evil twin in your lane. Chandra pulls Elise back toward the rear door. This is their fight, he says. If we get too close, we're just numbers to that thing. Elise's jaw clenches. I hate being a number, she says, but you're right. The train car shakes as Black Star pushes. The air feels thick. The emergency lights dim, then flare. In the corner of his vision, Marius sees the walls warp, paint peeling in reverse, metal turning to dark stone, symbols crawling across surfaces. The pocket reality is trying to grow. He pushes harder. He slams his shoulder into the copy, driving it back toward the center of the car. If you want me, he growls, you do not touch them. The copy laughs. Your weakness, it says. Attachment. You will always choose to shield the few instead of striking the heart. It feints for his chest, then twists and drives a boot at the floor. The impact launches it upward. It hits the ceiling, plants its feet on it, and pushes off, coming down at an angle Marius has never used. The chainsword whistles toward his neck. Before it lands, the world jolts, not from the train, from outside. A sudden, sharp emptiness slams through the car, like all sound has been sucked out, like the warp itself has flinched. The brand in Marius's chest goes still for the first time since Editor Prime touched it. The copy's blade stalls mid-swing. Its eyes widen. What? It starts. A figure stands at the far end of the car. She was not there a heartbeat ago. She is small, in a plain grey uniform. Her head is shaved. Her eyes are dull, not because she is stupid, but because there is nothing behind them in a very specific way. Marius feels it like a hole in the warp, a null. In Imperium terms, a blank, a soul with no warp presence. Anathema to demons and psychers. In Foundation terms, a human-shaped anti-anomaly. Subject, Aleph 9. Elise breathes. They sent a null on board. The seat is watching. The girl raises one hand. She does not speak. She does not glow. She simply exists in the same space as Black Star's tendril. The effect is brutal. The warped walls straighten. The crawling symbols vanish. The air snaps back to normal. The ache in Marius's brand drops to a faint cold spot. The copy screams, not with pain of flesh, but with the pain of a concept losing its anchor. "You bring blanks to my feast," it howls, cheating little animals, hiding behind holes. Its form flickers, armor cracks, features blur. It tries to step backward into the fold it came from, but that fold is closing under the null's dead gaze. Marius feels a command press against his mind. It is not in words at first. It is a weight, like a hand on his shoulder, pushing him toward the rear door. Somewhere in that weight, he senses many minds. O5 counselors, support staff, silent watchers. Somewhere deeper, beyond them, he feels a faint, thin warmth that might be his Emperor's attention, or might be his own hope given shape. The command hardens into a simple idea. Reach the throne. He understands. He could stay and try to finish the copy here, beat it down while the null pins it. But every second he spends fighting in this pocket gives Black Star more time to twist the line, to shake the track, to reach for the seat. This is not the place. He steps back. The copy reaches for him, voice desperate. "Coward," it spits. "You run from yourself." Marius meets its black eyes. "I walk toward judgment," he says. "That is harder than killing." He turns and moves toward the rear door. The brand tugs behind him, wanting to pull him back into the duel. He ignores it. Each step is an act of will. Mason grabs the door controls. "Car separation," Elise says. "Now." Chandra hits the emergency release. The coupling between compartments blows. The forward car, with the copy and the null, lurches. The rest of the train drops back. For a second, the connection between them stretches like thick rope. Then it snaps. The last thing Marius sees through the narrow doorway window is the copy, frozen halfway between forms, screaming as the null walks toward it with slow, steady steps. Then the doors slam shut. The train hums. The lights steady. The pressure in Marius's chest returns, not gone, but muted. Klein's voice comes through, full of static. "Report," she says. "What did you just do? Sensors show you lost a car." "We jettisoned a Black Star pocket with a null and a copy of Marius inside," Elise says. "Theta 7 will be a mess, but the line is clear." Klein makes a thin, strained sound that might be a laugh. "051 is not going to like that line item," she says. "But it worked. The storm spike at your position just dropped. You're clear to the seat." Chandra slides down the wall to sit on the floor. "That was Mirapho B," he says, voice shaking. "A version of you that had given up on guilt." Marius leans against the bulkhead. He feels like someone peeled him open and wrote on his bones. But it was still me, he says quietly. A path I could take if I stopped caring who dies. Mason claps him gently on the arm. "Good news is," he says, "you just chose not to be that guy. That's 1 point for you, 0 for the storm." Elise looks at Marius. "Remember this," she says. "When the seat offers you a clean mandate, you have seen where that path leads." He nods. "I will," he says. The train speeds up. Theta 7 falls behind, carrying a pocket of warped space, a screaming idea of a perfect soldier, and a silent null whose mere presence tears stories apart. Ahead, the seat waits. The seat is not a single building. It is a node buried deep under an anonymous island in an unnamed ocean. Above, there is a small, normal research station with polite staff and harmless projects. Below, there is a fortress. The train slides into a sealed bay. Heavy doors close behind it. Layers of scanners wash over the cars. The air smells of salt and stone and ozone. When the doors open, Marius steps out into a wide chamber with high ceilings and walls carved with subtle symbols. Guard squads line the exits. Their armor is white and gold, not black. Their weapons are clean. Their faces are calm in a way ordinary securities are not. They do not stare at Marius. They look at him, judge, and then look past him. They are used to strange things. Between them stand blanks, men and women with shaved heads and empty eyes. Some wear collars with soft blinking lights, control devices for their null fields. Their presence makes the air feel harder. Marius's brand curls in on itself, like a worm in salt. Elise steps forward and shows her badge. Director Elise Shu, Site 19, she says. Escorted by MTF Epsilon 11 Liaison Reed, Ethics Committee member Dr. Chandra Singh, and Provisional Asset M01, Sergeant Marius of the Adeptus Astartes. The nearest guard, a tall woman with lines at the corners of her mouth, scans the badge. Welcome to the seat, she says. The council is waiting. All weapons stay in lockup. Her gaze flicks to Marius's bolter and sword. Marius's jaw tightens. These are part of me, he says. I do not go unarmed into the hall of any power. In my world, that is how you end up on an altar. The guard does not flinch. In this world, she says, no one stands before the council with a loaded gun, not even us. You will surrender ammunition. You may keep the hardware under watch, or you may stay here. Elise looks up at Marius. Trust goes both ways, she says softly. We are asking you to trust them not to shoot you in the back. They are asking to trust you not to shoot them in the face, Marius thinks. He has walked into inquisitorial chambers unarmed before. He has also refused and walked away when his instincts told him no. The brand in his chest is quiet here. The nulls make it so. That helps. He takes his bolter. He ejects the magazine. Each shell is heavy in his hand. Little rockets of death. He places the magazine on the table. The guards wheel over. He unhooks spare mags from his belt and adds them. The chainsword stays at his side, but unplugged, its teeth still. That is as far as I bend, he says. The guard nods. Acceptable, she says. Follow me. They pass through multiple gates. Each gate has scanners, null fields, and quiet people with badges and calm eyes. Marius feels like he is walking into a layered mind. Outer cortex, inner thoughts, core. At last, they enter a great hall. It is not huge, like an imperial cathedral. It is human-sized, but its weight is in the air, not the stone. The room is circular. Tiered seats ring the walls, empty, but for shadows and faint glows where people might be. At the center stands a raised platform with a chair. The chair is simple. Metal, cables, a headrest, hand grips. Above it hangs a device like a crown of wires. This is the seat, Chandra whispers. Not a throne, a junction. Whoever sits there connects to the council and the database at once. Elise walks to the edge of the platform. She does not step onto it. Her voice carries clearly in the quiet hall. This is Director Elise Shu, Site 19, she says. I stand with ethics, with security, and with our provisional asset. We request guidance and mandate on Black Star, and we bring you a soldier who carries its mark. The lights dim. Soft points of light appear in the tiered seats, where faces might be. They do not resolve. They remain shadows with glints where eyes could be. Voices speak, layered and filtered so no one can tell who says what. You have brought a war into our house, Director Shu, they say as one. And you have brought a foreign god sword. Marius steps forward. He feels many minds turn toward him. He has felt this before, once, when a gathering of inquisitors and chapter masters stared at him across a war table and weighed his worth. This is colder, more distant, but not weaker. I am Brother Sergeant Marius, he said. I did not come to bring war. War followed me. Black Star cut into your world. I followed the wound. Now it gnaws at your foundations and at my soul. The voices murmur. Confirmed, one says. Threat class. XK probable. SCP 5000 event. Joint locus. Site 19. Ghostline seat. Another voice speaks. Ethics opinion, it asks. Chandra steps up beside Elise. The committee sees Black Star as a mirror of our own doctrine, he says. It feeds on our secrets, our lies, our necessary evils. It will grow stronger the more we act like it. If we fight it with only more control and more erasure, we may win the battle and lose ourselves. Mason shifts behind him. He feels very small. The council's attention turns to Elise. Director, they say. Elise lifts her chin. Black Star is already in our systems and in the global story, she says. We cannot out-secrete a thing that eats secrets. We can contain its vectors and cut its nodes, but we also need a symbol that stands against it. Someone who says no when it offers clean, cruel answers. That is what Marius has been so far. I propose we make that official. The lights pulse. You propose to sanctify an anomaly, the council says, to turn him into an SCP with a mandate, not a cage. Yes, Elise says, with limits, with rules. But yes. The air grows colder. You ask us to change doctrine, the council says, to move from pure containment to guided intervention. That is not a small thing. Marius listens. His chest aches. He is standing between two empires now. His emperor's cruel, vast Imperium and this shadow empire of the Foundation. Both claim to protect mankind. Both use ugly means. He feels a warmth at the edge of his mind. Not from the council, from somewhere beyond. In that warmth, he senses the distant image of a golden man on a broken throne, surrounded by machines and priests. The Emperor, as he has always felt him, silent, heavy, watching. The warmth does not tell him what to say. It simply reminds him he is there. He steps closer to the platform. You are not the only throne I serve, he says to the council. But right now, your fortress is the wall between Black Star and billions of human lives, so I will speak plainly. He points to his chest. This brand hurts when I choose the easy path, he says. When I think of myself as only a weapon, when I try to give my guilt away. That is Black Star's hook. It wants me to stop caring. It wants you to stop caring. If we let it, we will become like my mirror, pure inefficiency, empty in heart. He spreads his hands. My Emperor's law is hard, he says. It demands sacrifice. It has burned worlds. I have done terrible things under his banner. But even in the worst wars, we know we are doing something wrong when we kill the innocent. We feel it. We grieve. That grief is not weakness. It is a line we dare not cross lightly. He looks up at the shadows. You built your own law, he says. The veil, contain, control, conceal. You did it to protect, but Black Star has shown you the cost. Every erased town, every broken mind, every child raised in lies is a thread it can pull. If you want me as your sword, you must accept this. I will not swing only at your enemies. I will swing at your doctrine when it feeds the storm. Silence, then a low murmur. The council is not used to being told no. Chandra's heart is pounding. He has wanted to say some of this for years. He never dared. Now an 8-foot alien super soldier is doing it for him. Elise watches the shadows. She is not sure whether to be proud or afraid. At last, one voice speaks, not louder than the others, but clearer. You speak as if you are equal to us, it says. Marius shakes his head. I am a sergeant, he says, a soldier. I am not equal to any throne, but I am responsible for how I use my hands. If you ask me to crush everything in my path without thought, I will refuse. If you ask me to protect mankind, I will obey, under both banners. The shadows confer. Snatches of words drift. K-class. Narrative vector. Public awareness risk. Asset leverage, Mason whispers to Elise. Do they ever just talk like humans? He mutters. On their own time, she whispers back. Not in the seat. After a few long moments, the lights steady. The council speaks again. Very well, they say. We will test a new kind of mandate. Sergeant Marius of the Adeptus Astartes, you will act as a sanctioned anomaly under joint law. A symbol appears in the air above the platform. Half is the Foundation circle. Half is the Aquila, simplified to 2 wings. They overlap, forming a new mark. Your primary objective, the Council says, is to neutralize SCP 5000 Black Star in all its forms. Your secondary objective is to protect human life on this world, with special weight given to non-anomalous civilians. Your tertiary objective is to prevent the collapse of the veil, except where controlled revelation is the only way to prevent greater loss. The brand in Marius's chest pulses. The new symbol's lines brush it. He feels no new hook, only a frame. We grant you authority to break some of our rules, the Council says. You may choose in the field to prioritize mercy over secrecy when you judge it necessary. You may refuse direct orders that would clearly feed Black Star's growth. Elise's eyes widen. That is huge. Chandra lets out a slow breath. And the cost? He asks. There is always a cost, the Council says. They turn their attention to him now. Power scaling interlude, they say, almost dry. Let us be clear. Their voices lay out the limits. First, they say, Marius is bound to one world. We will not allow him to call his warships or his Imperium. His teleport relic is locked to our systems. Each jump will cost him pain and a piece of his warp link. Overuse will burn him out. Second, they continue, his mimetic brand will be both sensor and leash. When Black Star presses, it will pull. We will monitor that. If the pull grows too strong, we will pull him out or knock him down, no matter what battle is underway. Third, they say, he is subject to ethics review. Dr. Singh and his successors will have veto power over his deployment. If he starts to act like his mirror, we shut him down. Fourth, they add, he may reveal his existence and the war against Black Star, to select civilians only when such revelation directly helps neutralization. He may not become a public god or famous hero. No statues, no parades. Fifth, they finish, if at any time he claims the Emperor or any other extra Foundation authority commands him to act against these terms, we will treat that as a probable Black Star event and act accordingly. Marius listens. Each rule feels like a weight. They are chains, yes, but they are also walls to lean on. He is used to both. He nods once. I accept, he says, on one condition. The Council murmurs. You propose a condition to the seat, they say. Yes, he says. You must write this into your doctrine, not just in my file, in your core law. Black Star feeds on lies we tell ourselves, so write it where you can see it. He speaks each word clearly. No victory that kills the soul of mankind is worth the price, he says. No secrecy that breaks the world's ability to trust anything is true is worth the veil. And no soldier, human or otherwise, is only a tool. Chandra closes his eyes. He is going to replay this moment in his head until he dies. The shadows are still. Then slowly, the symbol in the air glows brighter. Mandate law updated, the Council says. Clause added. Ethics Committee empowered to invoke it. You have your condition, Sergeant. Elise exhales. Mason whispers, holy shit, under his breath. The golden warmth at the edge of Marius's mind flares. He does not know if his emperor approves of these human words, but he feels not alone. The council's attention shifts outward. Black Star is spreading, they say. It has touched religious dreams, conspiracy feeds, and the edges of our own database. It will try to turn this new symbol into its own. You, Marius, will now carry that risk and that shield. The mark in the air descends. It hangs for a second above his head. Then it sinks through his armor into his chest and rests against the brand. The pain spikes. Two patterns overlap. Black Star's hook of doubt and the seat's mandate of law. For a heartbeat, he feels like his soul is being rewritten. He grips his own name like a lifeline. I am Marius, he gasps. I serve the Emperor. I guard mankind. I am not your story. I am not alone. The pain ebbs. When it fades, the brand feels different. Still there. Still ready to hurt when he tries to give his guilt away. But now, when he thinks of killing for clean numbers, he feels not only Black Star's tug, but the seat's law pushing back. Two thrones, two sets of eyes. He straightens. The council speaks one last time. Go back to your fortress, they say. Lead our agents and your faith against the storm. We will watch. We will not command every cut. That is your burden. Do not let us regret giving you this much rope. Marius salutes with a clenched fist to his chest. In war, someone must carry the weight, he says. I will. Elise, Chandra, and Mason bow their heads. They came to the seat asking for orders. They leave with something more dangerous. Freedom within law. As they turn to go, one last voice brushes Marius's mind. It is not the council. It is not Black Star. It is a faint whisper from the distant warp, dry and amused. You argue with new lords, my son, it seems to say. See that you do not forget the old one on his throne. Marius does not answer. He simply walks. Up to now, he has fought Black Star's shadows in hallways and junctions. Now he carries a new mark that fuses the Foundation's sigil with his Emperor's wings, and a mandate that lets him defy even the seat if their orders feed the storm. The next step will show whether that freedom saves this world or breaks him. Up to now, Marius has burned a flesh plague, cut out a Black Star node, strangled a friend to silence a mimetic mouth, and killed Editor Prime in the Keter spine. He carries the storm's brand in his chest and the seat's new sigil on his soul. Now the storm reaches for the whole world at once. The first sign is in the dreams. Klein's voice comes through the seat's comms with a tight edge. Global survey feeds are spiking, she says. Spontaneous reports of a Black Star in the sky. Same phrase in 20 languages. Nightmares of cages breaking and a voice saying, "Let me fix the story." On another screen, social media scrapes, redacted and filtered. Crude drawings of a dark sun. Threads about the glitch in reality we all felt. Jokes, panic, memes. Black Star is leaking into public myth. Veil breach vector, Elise says, is jumping from our files into the wild. Klein does not argue. And it's using the brand as a backbone, she says. Marius's signal is the cleanest line between our doctrine and the warp. The more he moves, the sharper it gets. He's the sharpest link. And the weakest. Marius stands in the seat's war room. He feels it. The pull in his chest is no longer a steady ache. It climbs in pulses, like a second heartbeat. Each pulse seems to echo far away, over oceans and cities and small houses where children wake up crying for no reason. Chandra studies the graphs. Black Star is trying to turn the whole planet into its file, he says, not just our database. Earth as SCP 5000. It writes the entry, then makes us live inside it. Mason's hands tighten on the edge of the console. Containment for the whole world, he says. We don't have a box big enough. That's the point, Klein says. It's writing a story where we lose by doing what we always do. Hiding, controlling, cutting. Elise looks at Marius. You said its heart is where the knife enters, she says. We've cut the little blades. Now it's swinging the whole sword. Can you feel where the hilt is? He closes his eyes. Behind his lids, the world is a dim globe. He does not see land or water. He feels pressure, lines of pain and belief and fear. The strongest point is not Site 19, not the seat. It is something above them, an idea floating just out of sight. A story in the sky, he murmurs. Not a place, a rule. He opens his eyes. It is using your own label, he says. SCP 5000, the empty file it wrote for itself at Site 19. That entry has become its anchor, its name. Every time you say 5000, every time your system pings it, you feed it. Klein swears softly. Of course, she says. We gave it a number. That's what we do. We thought numbers made things safe. It used the number as a spine. So we delete it, Mason says. We scrub 5000 from the system. No file, no anchor. Klein shakes her head. Too late, she says. The designation has already echoed into backups, paper logs, even people's memories. You can't unring that bell. You can only change what rings through it. Chandra looks at Marius. You said every wound is also a gate, he says. Your brand, the 5000 file, the seat symbol. Can we use those as a doorway in, not out? Marius understands. You want me to go into the file, he says. Into Black Star's core space through my brand. Klein's voice is very small. Yes, she says. We can build a rig. Use the teleport relic and the seat's crown together. Your body stays here, under anchors and nulls. Your mind and soul go into the entry. Mason grimaces. Like remote desktop, he mutters. For hell. Elise does not smile. If we send him in, can we pull him back? She asks. Klein hesitates. I can build a tether, she says. See interface, warp maths, Scranton cage. In theory, yes. In practice, Black Star will try to cut the rope. Chandra folds his arms. And what do we expect him to do in there? He asks. Yell at a storm, Marius answers. I will show it a different story, he says simply, and I will cut its heart if I can reach it. He looks at Elise. You gave me a mandate, he says. This is what it is for. She holds his gaze. I hate this plan, she says, but I don't have a better one. And if we do nothing, it finishes turning Earth into a Kita narrative and we're all footnotes. She nods once. Do it, she says. Prep the rig. The seat's core chamber feels like a chapel and a lab fused together. The chair on the platform waits under the wire crown. Around it stand Scranton anchors, humming low. At the edge of the circle, 3 nulls sit cross-legged, eyes closed, their fields ready to slam down if anything tries to come out instead of in. Marius steps up onto the platform. Cables snake from the floor and clip onto his armor. Medtechs check his hearts, his brain patterns, the mimetic brand's pulse. Klein's face appears on a screen mounted to one pillar, pale and intense. Okay, she says. Here's how this works. The teleport relic in your pod pulled you through the warp along a knife of energy. We're going to use a smaller version of that effect, focused on your brand. The seat's crown will map your mind state into the SCP 5000 file space. You'll stand where Black Star is writing its core. Marius nods. Inside the story, he says. Yeah, Mason says. Inside the story. Elise stands at the foot of the platform. You will not be alone, she says. We'll be in your ear. Klein watching the data. Chandra watching the law. I'll be watching the kill switch. He raises an eyebrow. Kill switch, he asks. If Black Star takes you fully, she says. If you become a full avatar, we cut you off. Anchor spike, null pulse, maybe a bullet. We won't let you come back as it. He nods. That is as it should be, he says. Chandra steps closer. He holds up a small, worn object. It is a cheap plastic badge from a staff safety talk. On it, printed in fading ink, is a simple slogan. Do the right thing, even when no one is looking. Anchor phrase, Chandra says. A reminder that conscience does not need an audience. When you feel yourself slipping, think of this. Think of Hannah Lai. Think of the nameless people who never get their names in files. Marius takes the badge carefully between two fingers. He cannot pin it to his armor. He tucks it under the edge of the skull device instead. I will remember, he says. He sits in the chair. It creaks under his weight, then locks. Restraints close around his ankles and wrists. Not to hold him prisoner, but to keep his body from flailing when his mind goes elsewhere. The crown lowers onto his head. Cold metal touches his scalp. Tiny needles slide into skin, then deeper, interfacing with his brain. He does not flinch. The Scranton anchors ramp up. The room feels heavier. The nulls open their eyes, empty, steady. We're ready, Klein says. On my mark, we pulse the relic. She counts down. 3, 2, 1. Pain, not sharp, wide. The brand in his chest flares white. The seat sigil lights up inside it. For a moment, Marius feels like he is being pulled apart into words. His name tears. Marius Sergeant shield weapon failure. He clings to the core. I choose. The world falls away. He stands under a black sky. It is not real sky. It is the inside of a dome made of text. Lines of Foundation files, myths, news reports, whispered rumors. They flow and rewrite themselves in slow waves. In the center of this dome hangs the Black Star. Up close, it is not solid. It is a hole in the rules. A dark sphere where words fall in and do not come out. Around its edge flicker images. 682 with glowing eyes. Hannah Lai speaking in symbols. Editor Prime's twisted face. The mirror Marius in clean armor. A voice speaks from everywhere. Welcome to the better story, it said. Marius looks down. He stands on a floor of paper and stone. Some sheets bear the SCP logo. Some bear the Imperial Aquila. Some are blank. His armor feels heavy. His brand burns, but no longer as a simple hook. The seat symbol glows over it, holding it in a cage of light. Black Star, he says. SCP 5000. Warp Storm. Story Eater. I have come to end you. The laughter is like pages rustling. End me, it says. You are inside me, little knight. You are a footnote in my entry. I am the sum of your failures, your secrets, your necessary evils. The sky moves. 3 great images form. 3 paths. The first shows the Astronomicon, a bright beam in the warp, distant and steady. Around it, the heavy bulk of Imperial ships. A familiar strike cruiser glides through the void. The Valor of Ajax. On its bridge stands a figure in blue armor. Marius, whole, unbranded, surrounded by his brothers. A chaplain clasps his forearm in greeting. The librarian nods. The war goes on. This is your first path, Black Star says. Return. We sever the brand's tie to this world. You go home. The timeline shudders. Some fragments of me drift into your Imperium. But your Emperor is used to storms. This earth fades from your memory. A lesson. A warning. Nothing more. He feels the pull. Home. Brothers. A war he understands. He sees himself standing on the bridge, telling the tale of a strange, small world with dangerous cages. The others listen. Then they go fight the next campaign. The people of Earth below go on facing Black Star alone. His chest aches. He looks away. The second path forms. He sees himself on Earth, but not as he is now. No Foundation sigil. No ethics oversight. He stands in a ruined city, wearing a cloak of tattered banners. Around him kneel men and women with weapons and symbols. Cultists, rebels, MTF deserters. They look at him as if he is a god. I am Marius free, the vision says. I walk where I wish. I burn what I must. I crush both Anomaly and Foundation when they threaten mankind. I answer to no throne. I am the Blue Saint, the War Pope, the one who knows. In the sky above this vision, the Black Star throbs, not whole, not free, but present in whispers and shadows, in his followers' eyes, in the cracks of his crusade. Second path, Black Star says, free agent. You break from your emperor's chain and from the seat's rules. You save many, you kill many, you become a legend, and I live in the places you refuse to look because you are too busy being right. He feels the pull there too. No more asking permission, no more council voices, only his own judgment, sharpened by war. He looks away again. The third path appears. He sees himself as he is and as he could be. Armor still blue, but marked with the shared sigil of Aquila and Circle. Standing at the front of a group, Elise, Mason, Chandra, Klein on a screen, Fox operatives, Nulls, lower staff. Behind them, through a window, a city sleeps under a normal sky. He walks through the city at night, sometimes armed, sometimes not. Sometimes he talks to scared people who woke from Black Star dreams. Sometimes he helps MTF teams move an anomaly without killing witnesses. Sometimes he says no when an O5 voice orders an easy burn. Sometimes he fails. Sometimes people die because he was too slow, or too careful, or too tired. In all those moments, the brand in his chest hurts. The seat's law pushes back. The Emperor's distant warmth weighs on him. He sees himself in ethics hearings, in war councils, in quiet talks with Chandra in the chapel. He sees himself kneeling beside a null who shakes after facing a ghost. He sees himself telling a child the simple truth. Yes, bad things happen. No, you are not crazy. Yes, people are fighting for you. Above this path, the Black Star is smaller, not gone, a dark mark at the edge of the sky, held, hungry, watched. Third path, Black Star says, sanctioned servant. You let them chain you, you let them judge you, you bleed for both thrones. You never go home, you never get clean. You carry the guilt and the law. For a while, you slow me, perhaps even break me, but you pay in pieces of yourself until there is nothing left. Marius listens. The storm thinks it is tempting him away from the third path by making it sound heavy. It does not understand that heaviness is often what he trusts. He speaks slowly. First path, he says. I save my Imperium from any shards that follow me back. I leave this world to drown in my wake. That is cowardice. The sky flickers. Black Star does not like that word. Second path, he continues. I become what I fear. A warlord who answers only to his own sense of right. I've seen such men. Some wore my colors. They burned worlds and called it duty. He looks at the third path. And the third, he says, I stay. I let myself be bound by two sets of laws. I accept oversight. I accept that I will never hold a clean story in my hands. I accept that I will die on a world that is not my own, probably forgotten by my brothers. He closes his eyes for a moment. He sees the nameless guardsman again. The boy behind the barricade, holding the chipped Aquila. He sees Hannah lie whispering red apple through the storm's mouth. He sees Mason's hand on his arm. Elise's eyes when she said, "I hate this plan." Chandra's small, tired smile. Klein's messy graphs. He sees children in small apartments, waking from nightmares of a black star and going back to sleep because the sky outside is still blue. He opens his eyes. "I choose the third path," he says. The dome trembles. "Of course you do," Blackstar says. It tries to sound amused. It fails. "You choose chains and guilt. You choose to be a tool with feelings. You think that makes you noble." "It makes me useful," he says, "and human, or close enough." He lifts his chainsword. "Here, in this place, it is not metal. It is a line of simple truths. I am Marius. I have killed. I have failed. I still choose to protect." The skull on his chest glows. The badge under it warms. Do the right thing, even when no one is looking. He steps toward the black star. The hole in the rules pulses. "You cannot cut me," it says. "I am not flesh. I am every time the Foundation erased a village. Every time your Imperium erased a planet. Every time someone said, 'We had to.'" "I know," he says. "You are my sin and theirs. I cannot cut you out of history, but I can stop you from writing the next chapter." He plunges the blade into the edge of the black star. Pain rips through him. Not physical. Every memory of every hard choice spikes at once. Hannah's neck. Worlds burned. People left behind. His brand flares so bright he thinks it will burn his soul away. He holds on. He does not say, "We had to." He says, "We did it, and it was terrible, and we will not let that excuse become our God." The seat sigil on his soul flares. Far away, in the core chamber, the anchors scream. The nulls grit their teeth as waves of meaning slam into their empty fields. Elise grips the kill switch and does not press it. Chandra whispers the ethics clause again and again like a prayer. No victory that kills the soul of mankind is worth the price. The Emperor's distant warmth leans in. For a heartbeat, Marius feels two thrones anchored on either side of him. One, golden and broken, holding back a sea of demons. One, made of wires and stone and human will, holding back a sea of horrors. He is the bridge. The blade bites. The black star shrinks. Not all at once. It pulls back from some lines of text. The dream reports dim. The 5,000 files hold loosens. It screams as parts of it are forced to admit, "This was wrong. This was cruel. This was done by flawed people, not by fate. It is not killed. It is denied godhood." With a final wrenching tear, the blade cuts through the last tether between Blackstar's core and his brand. The sphere collapses inward, becomes a small, dense knot of dark. Then it falls, not into him, not into the world, but into a tiny, labeled box at his feet. SCP 5000 class. Keta. Thormiel should neutralize note. Do not feed with self-justification. He laughs once, hoarse and surprised. Even here, the Foundation's habit of putting things in boxes wins. The dome cracks, light floods in. Not holy light, just clear space where the words are no longer lies. Then everything slams shut. He comes back like a man who has been underwater too long. He gasps. The crown lifts off his head. Needles slide out. His hearts hammer. His whole body hurts like he has been beaten with iron rods. Voices echo. "Marius, Sergeant, can you hear me?" He blinks. Elise leans over him. Mason is at her shoulder. Chandra is behind them, eyes wet. Klein's face is on the screen, hair a mess, grinning and crying at once. "What happened?" he rasps. Klein answers. "Global Black Star indicators dropped by 80%, she says. Dream reports fading, file corruption slowing. The 5000 entry rewrote itself into a containment note. You did it. Or at least you punched it in the face so hard it has to sit down and think about its life. Chandra lets out a shaky laugh. Official ethics opinion, he says. We are not out of the woods. The storm may have fragments. People are still going to justify horrors, but the idea of turning that into a god just got a lot weaker. Elise squeezes Marius's gauntleted hand. You're still you? She asks. Name, rank, favorite food, same test. He breathes. Marius, he says. Brother Sergeant, 7th Company, Ultramarines, and I still recall enjoying thick ration stew, perhaps with less guilt now. Mason snorts. Sounds like him, he says. The brand in his chest still aches, it always will. But the pain has changed. It is less a hook and more a scar. It hurts when he tries to slide into easy excuses. It quiets when he says, yes, that was wrong, and does better. He sits up, slowly, with help. The seat's chamber looks the same. The world outside does not. On the screens, news feeds show calm skies. Social media scrapes still have jokes about a weird shared dream, but they are fading into other noise. The graph labelled SCP 5000 shows a line dropping from a towering spike to a low, troubled plateau. Klein updates the label. SCP 5000, she reads aloud. Object class, Thormeal, neutralized. Description. A former global narrative storm created by accumulated self-justifications of containment and war. Current status, constrained within awareness. Hazard, higher forgotten. She smiles tiredly. In plain words, she says, we locked our bad habit in a file where we can see it and argue with it instead of letting it run the show. Chandra nods. Good, he says. Now we have to live up to that every day. No magic fix. Elise turns to Marius. This brings us to the last part, she says. The paths you saw. I'm guessing they made you choose. He nods. I chose to stay, he says. To be your sanctioned servant, bound by your law and my emperor's will, unable to go home in truth. Mason winces. I'm sorry, he says. Do not be, Marius says. If I went back, I would always know I had left billions to face this alone. My brothers have many shields. This world had few. Chandra steps closer. Then we need to write your boundaries clearly, he says, so we don't slide back into feeding the thing you just caged. They meet later in a smaller briefing room. No holograms, just a table. On it lies a simple document printed on paper. Mandate M01. Sanctioned Servant Protocol. Elise reads the key lines aloud. First, she says, Asset M01 exists to fight narrative and existential threats like Black Star that cross between anomaly and doctrine. He's not to be used as a blunt weapon for routine containment breaches. Second, Chandra adds, M01 must be present at any war council that proposes mass civilian termination, large-scale amnestic deployment, or intentional large-veil breaches. He acts as both tactical asset and ethical counterweight. Third, Elise says, when facing a choice between clean mass death and messy rescue attempts, M01 is empowered to argue for the latter, even against council orders. His protest must be recorded and addressed, not ignored. Fourth, Chandra continues, M01 is forbidden from leading cults, founding nations, or becoming a public religious figure. Limited, honest contact with civilians is allowed when it directly prevents harm. No statues, no prayers in his name. Mason grins weakly. Sorry, Blue Saint, he says. No fan club. Marius shrugs. I never wanted one, he says. Fifth, Elise says, if the mimetic brand in his chest spikes beyond safe levels, indicating Black Star's influence rising, M01 will submit to temporary containment and debrief. No field deployment until he stabilizes. Sixth, Chandra says, If at any time ethics and security jointly determine that M01 has become a net source of narrative hazard, meaning people start saying we had to because the Space Marine said so, we will enact termination protocol with his prior consent. He looks at Marius. Do you consent? He asks quietly. Marius meets his eyes. Yes, he says. If I become the storm, cut me down. Chandra's throat works. Then we sign, he says. They each take a pen. Elise signs as director. Chandra signs for ethics. Mason signs as security witness. Marius adds his name at the bottom in heavy, careful letters. He adds one more line beneath. I accept these chains so that others may not wear worse ones. They look at it for a moment in silence. Codex note, Marius says softly. Sometimes the most powerful weapon in a war is a rule you choose to obey. The storm does not vanish. In the weeks that follow, there are still nightmares. There are still strange glitches in Foundation records. There are still people in power who say, we had to, and mean, we didn't want to think harder. But something has changed. At Site 19, a quiet memorial is held for Dr. Hannah Lai. Not in a big hall, in a small lab. Her friends gather. They tell stories. They do not clean her file. They write plainly. Compromised by SCP 5000. Terminated by Sergeant Marius to prevent wider breach. Sacrifice acknowledged. Responsibility shared. Marius stands at the back in his armor. When the small service ends, one of Hannah's colleagues approaches him. A nervous woman with ink stains on her fingers. You killed my friend, she says. He does not look away. Yes, he says. And you saved me, she says. I know that. I still hate that it had to be her. I just wanted you to know I'm going to be mad about it for a long time. He nods. Good, he says. Be mad. The day it does not hurt you is the day we should be afraid. She sniffs, half a laugh. You're weird, she says, and walks away. At the seat, O5s argue. Some want to keep using Marius only in the shadows. Some see value in a symbol of principled force. One O5 writes a private note. M01 is dangerous because he makes us ask why about our oldest rules. We should keep him alive for that reason alone. In a low-level Foundation office, a training packet is updated. New page. Scenario. When necessary evil is a red flag. It quotes the new SCP 5000 file. It mentions mandate M01. And at the bottom, in plain language, if the only justification you have is we had to, you need a second opinion. In a far-off civilian city, a little girl wakes from a dream. In the dream, the sky cracked and a black star stared down. She was very small. The star was very big. She felt like a sentence in a book she had not agreed to be in. Then a blue giant stood between her and the star. He did not fight it with lightning or fire. He just stood there and said, "No, not like that." In the dream, the star shrank until it was no bigger than a marble. The giant picked it up, put it in a small box, and wrote something on the lid. She cannot read the words when she wakes, but she remembers the feeling. Somebody big said no. She gets up, drinks water, and goes back to sleep. On a nameless world in a far, impossible future, a tech marine on the Valor of Ajax pauses over a flicker in the Geller field. Sergeant Marius's teleport relic shows a divergence, he says to the librarian. As if it was used off record, the warp remembers a missing link. The librarian's eyes grow distant, then he smiles faintly. Then somewhere, he says, our brother is still doing the Emperor's work. That is enough. He clears the anomaly from the log, not out of neglect, out of trust. In a small chapel under the seat, Marius kneels. No golden icons, just the blank plate and the cheap badge. He speaks simply. Emperor, Council, people of this world I will never meet, he says. I have taken the path of the sanctioned servant. I will act. I will be wrong sometimes. I will hurt. I will listen when ethics and friends tell me to stop. I will try to make sure that when I kill, it is not because it was easy, but because everything else would have been worse. He pauses. And when I fail, he says, may someone as stubborn as I am stand up and say no. He stands, heavy but steady. Outside, Site 19 hums. The SCP Foundation keeps its boxes. The world keeps its lies and truths. The warp keeps its storms. Between them moves a single giant in blue armor, bearing a scar of doubt and a shared sigil on his chest. He is not a god. He is not a perfect soldier. He is, at last, exactly what both his thrones need him to be. A shield that knows when to say no to the hand that holds it. Codex note. Mandate M01 is the first recorded case of the SCP Foundation binding an alien super soldier under ethics law to fight a narrative K-class event, with explicit rules limiting both his power and their own.